We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing episodes beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, but most times we go deep. And I'm your host, David Cameo, and I've been joined by Cosmom09 Rachel Burt Sharony, aka Blazy Gardner, and Bridget, ko-fi.com/Punky Brewster. That's PUNKYBRUSETER. And we're also joined by our special guest, Karina Davey, who you can reach on Instagram at CARINAE_D, which you should do. I don't know why you're not doing it. I keep telling you every episode to do it.
Please do it.
I am doing it,
everybody's
Dave.
doing it.
I did it right after you told me to.
I'm doing it the hardest I can.
Karina, go make another account so we can follow that one too.
Just do a new
Right.
one, a new account.
Make it hard for Dave to actually spell out loud, too. We're here to talk about Fallout's 8th and final episode of the season, titled The Beginning. Oh, it's like they ripped off Fear the Walking Dead again, right, Sharon D? Or actually, even The Last of Us did the same thing.
We
when you're
said
lost
that
in
at the
darkness.
beginning in the first show that like it's the end and then the beginning.
So you want my opinion on this episode?
Yes.
Absolutely.
This episode.
First of all, we
I wanna
missed
know.
This
you.
final episode.
And finally, we were all caught up.
Yes.
So there's a
Finally.
combination of
Oh
all
my
that.
gosh. Okay. I just have to say, I watched this entire series before we even started recording for the first episode. That's all right, Dave. It didn't happen midway.
Gaslit us for
I
the first
faked my
3
way
episodes.
through this whole thing. And I have been dying because one, Dave, a lot of your predictions have been like spot on.
Mm-hmm.
Which was like hard to hide because I knew and you didn't know that I'd watched it. And so you would be like, I think Hank and Henry is like the same. And I would be like,
Yeah.
Did I say that?
To the point I was like, Dave, watch this.
yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Dave,
did say-
Dave
I did
watched
say
this
that?
and he's just telling
That's
us
so
that he
funny.
didn't because there's no
yeah,
way that
like
he
you
has
said
figured out
things and I
this
was like,
much
there's
stuff.
no way that you knew that.
There's no
Yeah,
way he figured
so-
out this much.
I'm transparent to a fault, if you remember.
So
The guy who says every dumb thing in his brain.
well, some of those dumb things were right. A lot of stuff happens in this finale, and we're given a ton of answers to questions that we've had pretty much the entire season. You guys would be theorizing, and I would just be like, can't say anything because I know what happens.
So kudos to you. You did not make that obvious, even though you were lying the whole time.
Great, good. I was lying. What if you go back and watch my facial expressions, or like sometimes people would ask questions, and I'd be like, really slowly to like answer.
Do you
Anyway,
want to know what I was thinking then, by the way? Because this is how gullible I am and naive. I was thinking this. Bridget's so uninterested. She's so tired. She doesn't want to contribute. There's something off. What's wrong with Bridget this whole time? I was like so worried
I was
about you.
extremely stressed. I was just like, I can't. I don't know. I loved the show. I thought the show was great. I will never watch a show in full before we record again. Ever.
It's hard.
Ever.
There's not a lot to say.
It was miserable.
Sucks, huh?
I hated this. I hated it. I hated that I had to go back and watch episodes when I like didn't really feel like it.
Oh.
Because I was like, I already watched the show. I don't really want to go back and watch this again.
Well, and Karina, you had said also that, I guess maybe in the first few episodes, you were even saying how sometimes it's hard to tell which episode we're in, and you're afraid to
Yeah.
pull in facts from other episodes or future episodes or past episodes.
I've been trying desperately not to drop too many spoilers, but this episode has so many things that I wanted to talk about, and I've been dropping small hints about where the episode goes, so we can talk about that later. But yeah,
Can we
it's
just
been
commend
difficult.
Karina
Yeah.
for doing such a good job of not spoiling anything, really?
The first
By the way,
episode we
let's clap
recorded,
into the
Karina
mic.
mentioned the water pump.
Oh yeah,
That was about
And
it,
I
really.
sat, I don't, if you watch it back now, you can maybe catch
Yeah.
my facial expression.
Yeah.
But in it, I'm like, I like sit there and then I start like drifting off. And it's because in my head, I'm like, did that happen in this episode? I didn't think that happened in
Yeah.
this episode.
Did I
And
miss
I was
that
like
in my
trying to
rewatch?
recall.
Yeah, so it was like the first episode I messed it up. I was like, oh no, that didn't happen in this episode. Oh well.
It's okay.
Not-
It happens. It's really hard to keep track of. I will say, although I really, really, really enjoyed this series, it didn't have the it factor for me.
Oh.
I have not gone back to watch these episodes willingly. They're good, but I'm not like, oh man, I've got to see that again. Everything was pretty straightforward. I don't think there was a lot of like little stuff that I missed. It wasn't so intensely complex that I needed a second watch to truly understand what was happening. And it didn't pull at my heartstrings enough for me to be like, I am so invested in this and it's all I can think about, which is how I was with The Walking Dead.
It's not in my DNA.
I have yet to really find anything that scratched that same itch for me. In fact, the other night as I'm packing my suitcase, what is on again but The Walking Dead channel in the first season of The Walking Dead. And I'm still laughing at lines that I've like forgotten about in the first season. Chokehold's illegal and
Season 8.
and college educated coos. Like those are the things, you know, I'm like still laughing about this stuff. And this was close, but that might just be a once in a lifetime experience for me. I don't know. Maybe I'm holding something to a higher standard that doesn't exist. Well, no, that's not fair. I rewatched Buffy the Vampire Slayer like a bajillion times.
Has anything really scratched that itch?
Silo is really good, and I am excited to watch it again if we cover it.
Me too.
From has scratched that itch for me because I've rewatched the episodes with Akila. Heather, yeah. From has scratched that itch. She said it in the comments.
From never changes.
From is good enough that it's pulled me in again. And I would rewatch the episodes and like happily rewatch the episodes, but I feel like it's because I'm always missing something because it is such a complex story. And it's so much like Stephen King's writing in spots that it makes me nostalgic for something that I didn't have before. I don't know how to describe it.
Oh, that's a term. There's a term for that. I forget what it's called. It's a recent phenomenon too. Nostalgia for a time that doesn't exist.
As someone who loves Walton Goggins, I'm glad he's getting more recognition because he's a fantastic actor. I don't know what it is about him, but he really just does give off cowboy. And it may just be because he was in Justified also.
Big cowboy energy.
Just something about him.
The guy who plays Quintus in the show, which you see him in the first episode, Cleric Quintus from the Brotherhood of Steel. I remember him from Mr. Robot. He was one of the corporate dudes in that show. And I thought his acting was outstanding, both in this series and in that one. He's like the Christopher Lee. If you had to compare actors, Christopher Lee comes on with his big Christopher Lee energy. Same thing with, what's his name?
Ian McKellen.
Just that big presence energy, knows exactly what talk like this, and I talk like this, and I talk like this, and I talk like this. And they have that thing where they just know exactly what volume level they should be at. The cadence of speech that just draws you in. He's kind of that guy though, because I didn't say his name, did I?
He is that guy.
He's no Sarita Chowdhury, which now is definitely not that girl for me. Passing of her in this episode. Long live Moldaver.
I, of course, love the whole series. I have extra attachment to it, I think, because of my experiences with the games. I was really excited to see the way that they put all of these stories together, the way they told all these 3 stories at the same time and revealed everything in such a way. It was very specific, and I think there was a lot of tension there. I think they did the best way they could have. We had to wait all the way till the end to get some of these answers, and that we still have some questions, as Rachel was saying before we started this. It makes me extra excited for next season, the second half of this season, whatever we want to call it, to maybe revisit some of these games that they're basing all of this off of. It makes me wonder about what the 33 weeks from now thing is going to be. I would absolutely be so thrilled if it was an announcement for a remaster of the game that they've based a lot of this show off of.
Which now would be 25 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't been keeping track.
It's been 2 months.
I've enjoyed being on here, hearing you guys watch it for the first time and kind of get into the world for the first time. Bridget, you might have played the games before.
She says un poco for the audio podcast. Jeez
yeah,
Louise.
a tiny bit. I'm sorry. Okay. I didn't want to unmute. I apologize.
So for the most part, it's your first experience with the whole Fallout world. So I've been really enjoying seeing all of you experience it for the first time and get to be the person who kind of explains things and kind of gives you a little bit more information and dropping memes in the wrong thread for what's a Cazador? Here you go.
Bridget, I know you said you don't want to really rewatch the series. Not that you hate it, just it's not one of those series that you're like, okay, it's fine. I watched it. It's great.
Yeah.
But have you thought about, even if it's just the thought and it makes you feel good in your tummy, just playing the games again or starting from somewhere else instead of Fallout 4?
Yeah, actually it has made me kind of think about it. And I think after we watched it, Trav did put Fallout 4 in again.
That's
He'll
what
go
he
through
said.
waves. So he went Fallout 4 and then immediately was back to Skyrim again for like
Yeah.
the 10th time. He gets like that Bethesda kick and he's like, oh, wait, this reminds me I could be playing Skyrim.
Yeah.
So he's playing that instead. But yeah, it made me think like, oh, yeah, I remember the robots and stuff like that. No, I remember this part of the storyline. I'm not going to get into it because it's like spoilers for Fallout 4. But anyway, it would remind me of things and then I would be like, oh, I could go back and play that. But as I've stated, I have very limited time. And so, unfortunately, I don't have a ton of free time to do video games, which makes me sad because it is something that I really enjoy. But I'm also really bad with moving the camera angle. It's like as soon as we moved from N64 to anything higher, I'm like, I can't do it. I get so frustrated. I'm like trying to move the camera and I'm like, no, it went like way too far over. Like, no, I'm like turned around. I get so frustrated because it's really just that I haven't put the time into it. But I enjoyed playing Last of Us when we did that. I forced myself to do that for the podcast. So
Never again.
I have part 2 for when the next season comes out.
Oh boy. Better start now.
And I don't,
It's
I
a
don't
really
want to play
long-
it.
it's
I
a really long
don't
one.
want to
Yeah.
play it. I don't want to play it either.
It's really depressing too. I would just say, like, if you're already
Yep, I know what happens. And
This
so
is a
I'm
perfect
like,
spot to promote our products of, we don't have any, but to promote our wellness products. Or, as Karina rightfully pointed out, because I should have,
t-shirts.
our Squawk Tech t-shirts.
Yay!
Our Squawk Tech t-shirts are guaranteed to make you feel a lot better.
Yes.
Guaranteed by
They do.
no one.
if you buy a Squawking Dead t-shirt and you're wearing it somewhere in public and you come up to me, I will buy you a drink and that will make you feel better.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
for
I'm
sure.
not promoting alcoholism though.
If you want to get your Squawking Dead merch, your Squawk Tech t-shirt, your Squawking Fallout logo t-shirt, your Squawking Dead Fear t-shirt from season 8, the alternate version of that which Charity's wearing right now, the hosts t-shirt, there's 2 versions of that. There's 2 versions of the Squawk Tech t-shirts. There's a whole bunch of other cool and sometimes even more subtle design shirts that you can get from either the description of this video if you're watching on YouTube, or you can jump in and get them from squawkingdead.com. Choose the main menu on the top left and hit merch. And as Charity's showing you on the screen right now, there's also the Kirk Manley design, which she has in the form of a travel mug. And, you know, just over my shoulder on the right is our Kirk Manley poster as well.
I've got the tote bag somewhere behind me.
Again, guaranteed to make you feel well for however long
Stop
that lasts.
guarantee. Cease and desist, sir.
Who's going to stop me? All right, let's see what everybody in the chat is saying, which I thought was funny at the time, but then it's going back and we're going to just say it out loud. Heather said, I just started Silent, feels like Fallout, but alternate universe, LOL. Francisco says, David did an excellent poker face to hide what he already knew. Kudos to him. Did not watch the episode, but I'm just that smart, Francisco. I think that's because you might not be a gamer and you're absorbing the show as a series
keeper.
viewer.
Let me just do it, Dave. Francisco says, love the finale and the series. Maybe I would have been more consistent on the timeline because that's been a heavy talk, but everything else was spot on and made the IP from Bethesda, its creators, happy. They wrapped all the storylines well for the next season to start with some lore that means a lot for fans who have played New Vegas. And I heard today that season 2 of The Last of Us might be coming sooner than expected. And Heather said, I highly recommend the host shirt in green. She was wearing it in New York City when we went to the premiere of season 2 of Daryl Dixon, and she was looking absolutely gorgeous.
Or as the boys in New York City would say in the 90s, Foyne. Foyne.
Oh my
Queen.
gosh.
He spelled it out for you.
David,
Yeah.
I'm so embarrassed for you.
Hey, Rachel, what did you think of the episode?
I'm not sure how to add on to what has already been said. We got questions answered, a fantastic build up for the next season. It left me excited to find out where it goes, and also mad that I can't just keep watching into the next season.
Well, I only have one question then, because sometimes this is a thing with you. Do you feel that this series wrapped up? This is one of your usual either complaints or quirks.
Yeah, I am pretty picky when it comes to series wrap-ups. Well, not series, but
Season, even series.
Season wrap-ups. If we have an overarching storyline for a season, I would like to see that wrapped up. And I do feel like they did a good job of that. This last episode, They didn't make it super, super clear who our bad guys were. I feel like they did just enough where we could each have our own opinion of who the bad guy is. And then in this last episode, all of that got thrown out the window. And it's like, everybody's bad. Everybody's horrible. Just hate everything.
Welcome to Fallout.
Yeah. So
Fallout.
This
Yeah.
Fallout
leads me to
never
a question
changes.
I've asked you guys several times throughout this coverage, because Maximus is my favorite. Do you still hate him?
Yeah.
Because you guys were all very anti-Maximus at the beginning. So I just
Yeah.
was
My
wanted to
feelings
know.
on
After the second or third episode.
Anti-Maximus.
my feelings on Maximus have not changed. I'm not gonna say I hated him. I just was like, there he is.
But he's redeemed. You guys hated him initially because of the Dane thing, and he didn't even do it.
Is he redeemed though? Because he took credit for killing Moldaver, and he most certainly did not do that.
Well, Dane thrust it upon him.
Yeah.
But he didn't
Eponymous.
correct him.
So I'm getting like Darth Vader vibes. He's Sauron getting the One Ring. He sets out to do good, but it's not going to be good what he does.
His power is corrupting him.
Gandalf was like, I would take the ring intending to do good, but what I would actually do would not be that. I would end up doing evil with it. He tried to stop the chicken effer. He wasn't stopping the chicken effer, right? He went after the wrong guy. He ended up doing the wrong thing when he let Hank go.
That's true.
What's that thing David always likes to say? We hate in others what we recognize in ourselves. I think that's why I'm like, about Max, because don't we all try to do good and then it ends up backfiring? Just do the best you can. And sometimes it's just like, nope, S all over you. It still doesn't change my opinion. There's Maximus doing the stuff.
Well, the only thing I'll add on to that is that I like him for those reasons.
He's a very gray character in
I'm
a
falling
series
into the
full of
trap.
gray characters.
He's me, so I don't like him.
See, I think I like him for the same reason, because I see elements of myself in it. It's the idolization of trying to achieve this goal, thinking that you've had all of the decision-making power this entire time, but really you've been acting out of desperation, and then you get the thing that you want and you realize you don't even really want it anymore. When I think of like trying to work my way up in like corporate America, that's exactly how I felt. The higher up I got, the more I was like, I don't want this. This is actually the opposite of what I want is slightly more money, but double the responsibility. That's horrible. So I think maybe that is why I like him, because I see that he idolized the wrong things.
He still wants to belong to something. He wants to belong to Lucy in the vault now.
Well, he's looking for family.
Right.
Well, we
He
all
thought
are.
that was the Brotherhood, but then he learned about the Brotherhood and realized that's not what he wanted. It's kind of like Lucy coming out of the vault. She thought the vault was everything until she got out in the real world and realized that it's not everything. It's so much more and it's so much different. And I think that Max has done the same thing. He's come out of the Brotherhood and realized the Brotherhood isn't all there is. There's more to life out here than just being a squire or a knight and doing what I'm told.
I think everybody, in a way, it goes back to what Siggy said at the very beginning, is like, are those things even going to be what you still want at the end after you achieve them? So I think everyone kind of experiences that. And I think the ghoul has experienced that already. We're seeing him on the other side of that. He's got a singular goal. He wants to find his family. But if he does, is that even really what he wants?
That's the tragedy.
Yeah, what's it going to look like when he finds them, if he finds them?
After everything we've seen in this series thus far, I think we all kind of saw that that was probably his answer. Even after everything that we saw finally from his point of view in the past, it's like, oh, he's walking right onto the tracks and waiting to be hit by a train. For 220 years, this man has been looking for his family. Meanwhile, we've learned in horror what his wife had proposed, and to another one of my predictions, which, listen, I didn't want to be right about it, but honest to God, it's like, but what if a little fun little thing that I can play with? No, Vaultec did launch, was the first mover.
I should say too, like, it's been a huge fan theory in the gaming community too, because it was never clear what actually happened. There were a lot of different stories and theories, but the prevailing theory was that Vaultec was responsible.
She said, let's do it, but they didn't say that they did it.
We didn't see a body.
Actually see it happen. My presumption is that it's sort of like that Cold War situation. Like they launched the first nuke at themselves. So then the U.S. retaliated by sending nukes to whoever they thought was responsible, Russia, China, whoever. And then, of course, then they perceive the U.S. as being the antagonist, and then they send nukes. So soon, everybody's launched their nukes. There's no way to know who the first bomb came from at that point. Right. It is it's the
like the
very
cantina scene.
No,
it was definitely Han.
Han shot first.
It was obviously Han.
That's how I learned what gaslighting is all about.
War for more games.
Yeah. Well, in Fallout 4, you experience the beginning of the war in real time. You see a news report and it's just confusion. And they're like, we're getting reports that this place got bombed. We're getting reports that we've launched nukes. We don't know what's going on. We're trying to figure it out. And all of a sudden, everything just cuts out because everything fell apart so fast. So there's no way for anybody to prove what actually happened. So I'm willing to bet that Vault-Tec actually did drop the first nuke, because everything they led up to saying like fiduciary responsibility to all of your shareholders, like how do you guarantee that all this pays off? We'll just make it happen.
And they do mention it again in the, first of all, very Dr. Strangelove-esque.
How I learned to stop worrying and love the bomb.
This is the official title. But yeah, they're that Dr. Strangelove-esque war room that the Enclave, I guess, quote unquote. Again, that's one of those things that's kind of up in the air still. I think we're to assume that this is the Enclave. What? No, Bridget's shaking her head on mute while eating watermelon. What?
That ain't the Enclave, bruh.
We discussed it in the first episode.
Despite what Americans would tell you, we are not actually run by businesses. So that is not the Enclave.
We're run by Pentaveret.
The Pentaveret.
I'm having a system error. I need to reboot my computer.
The Enclave is a thing in the game, Dave. We know who the Enclave is in the game.
Do we know the components of the Enclave based on the games, or is it just this nebulous?
It's the military.
It's the remnants of the U.S. military. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it though?
Oh my god.
Well, that's what it is in the game, Dave.
It's the CRM of this universe.
What Dave said somewhere in the first or second episode where he mentioned an enclave of corporations. I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Taking aside what I do know factually from the game, that the Enclave is the remnants of the U.S. military, wants you to think that that is the Enclave. Are they retconning the Enclave? I don't know. I hope not, because then that would be a departure from the game series that they have not done thus far.
See, Bridget, that's how you answered the question.
I just wanted to ask.
You don't go, no, Dave, no.
I didn't want to wreck it for anybody that didn't know.
I get you. So, well, let's just call it Vault-Tec's group of funky fellas that are in the Doctor Strange-esque war room, basically developing what is known today as the Vaults, essentially. And they said it themselves that, and I want to note this one thing. Okay, as it's building up to the point where Barb actually says, well, we're going to drop the bombs. And Cooper Howard has this bombshell staggered look, which, by the way, just fantastic. Okay, but going back to the war room, Bud Askins has this face. All this time, you don't like Bud Askins. You don't like him at all. And just like everybody else in this series, Hank is the good guy, obviously. Moldaver's the bad guy, obviously. Wags finger for the audio podcast. And then you're looking at Bud Askins, you're like, well, he's obviously a corporate dude. He's probably the worst of them all. Gosh, Bud Askins. And you want to like Barb. Barb is Cooper Howard's wife. There's a little family. They got divorced. But anyway, my point is, he's looking at the situation going, well, eventually the wasteland will clear itself out. We have time. He's a very non-interventionist type of, why do we have to nudge things into Fallout? Or why do we have to move things into a space where we have to do the actual dirty work? He's thinking, wait it out. I've got my buds.
Yeah.
War never changes. That is true. And so eventually they'll wipe enough of the surface out so that we can come in and just do cleanup. So when she says this, he has his face like, I don't know if I like this. I don't know if I want this. And Bridget's like nodding. She's like, finally, he said something smart. Sorry, I am playing it up.
He said something I can get behind. This whole season is just subverting expectations over and over and over again. Because you think the ghoul is the bad guy. And then you get a side of the story. What did he do to his wife? He had to have done something horrible. Oh, wait, she's the worst.
The worst.
And then
Of the
you're
worst.
like, Bud is annoying because he is super annoying and he wants to toe the company line, but you can tell he regrets his involvement in that moment. Now he still follows through because he is a company man.
Still
and
has
also
his
he's
own
a brain
agenda.
in a jar. So like really, what else can you do? But
And they still give him his cluster of vaults, his idea.
Yeah,
is
I feel like that
nice.
was kind of a horrible outcome for him. Like, yeah, he was annoying, but did he deserve to be a brain on a Roomba? You know, like that was.
no.
We don't know.
He's
Maybe
crying.
he asked for that.
Did your
yeah. I
captions
don't
think
call it a
anybody
brain on a
asks for
Roomba?
that.
Because that made me laugh so hard on my
In the
captions.
Brain on a
subtitles.
Roomba.
Yeah, and my captions, I was like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, because he's like, I suggest you wait it out in your father's pod because I would sleep if I could. He's living a horrible existence. Yeah,
What's that like? Yeah.
That whole
And who
sequence
did that to him?
was just
Voltec,
absurd.
probably.
When he pulled out the needle and he's like, let me
Yeah,
get
he's
you
like,
with,
"Come over here.
with
Let me get
this.
Yeah. The fact that he's like completely waylaid by like a mop that fell over and Norm has to come rescue him. And he's like, here you go.
Subjectively
He's like,
a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
Wait, so
Like-
can we hang there for a hot sec? Because that
Yeah.
was a question that I had while watching the second time getting notes. Apparently, I don't think the executive assistants, as we learn what these people are, the overseers of 33 and 32 probably, the original residents of 31, which were from the before times, I don't think they really respected. I think this was an interesting opportunity to get Bud Askins back for his training because in the end, what do? People had to have positioned those janitorial buckets and mops to keep him penned in. There's
somebody
something
trapped him
there.
I didn't feel like it was purposeful, but why is there a janitorial mop there? He's not using it.
The whooshing of the air from the vault opening or closing when Betty went in and out may have blown it over or something was what I thought. Otherwise, he would have been like, somebody trapped me in here, Betty, before he realized it was Norman.
But he would
Right.
be so a company man or brain on a Roomba that he would assume that, oh, somebody must have carelessly left this here. And I'm looking at this whole setup, and there's a whole bunch of hallway that this stuff can lay against. And yet here it is positioned just so that the Roomba can't escape or whatever. I just think there's something there. We have yet to see why they may have done that to Bud Askins in the jar.
Maybe it was Stephanie. I'm just saying she's giving
Stephanie
me the
Hart,
vibe
the
that she
last
would
one
have
to be
just,
revived.
Yeah, she just kind of knocked that mop
she's a
over on her way
real
out.
bee. So
By the way,
like,
Dave,
it was her.
really sorry to blow your Betty Pearson theory there.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
but he was close. Her
I was
assistant.
so close.
Close.
Barb's
He was the
assistant.
Yeah.
What does that
Close.
make me?
Just incorrect. But
By
a
the
good
way,
theory, like,
the Betty Pearson of the past does look a lot like the Betty Pearson of the future. But still, I just thought that seeing the young Leslie Uggams did sort of kind of look like Barb Howard. I was operating off of that principle alone.
it was a good theory.
Yeah.
Just,
They did
know.
a super great job of younging down Kyle MacLachlan.
I think that was very well done.
Agree to disagree.
Really?
This
I
is
thought it
done
was
by the
good.
same people that did Westworld, and they had to do that for Anthony Hopkins.
I thought it was good enough.
Will Smith did a movie recently where he was fighting his younger version
like
of
Gemini
himself
Man
or
or
something.
something, yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
probably 6 years ago, but yeah.
That was still pretty recent.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
What
feel
is
like the first
time?
time I saw that kind of de-aging thing was in like Tron Legacy or something like that, where they de-aged Jeff Bridges.
Jeff.
At the time when I saw that, I thought it was impressive, but then going back and looking at it later, I'm like, oh, it doesn't really look that good. So comparatively, I think that this looks much better than we have seen in the past. Will I look at it in 10 years and think, wow, that's flawless? Probably not, but you know.
it always looks so clunky to me. It's like the Star Wars footage of Carrie Fisher.
Oh,
after
yeah.
her passing.
It's
Yeah.
like the head is moving and the face is moving like it's detached from the head. It's yeah.
Something about it just always looks weird.
It looks like they've smeared Vaseline around the edges of the camera. You can
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
that even with the Kyle MacLachlan, like where you can see like the edges of his face where they've kind of blurred that.
Well,
Yeah.
the problem is we've known him for so many years as a prominent actor in many things that we've seen him young. So
Yeah.
this was less believable because it
That's
didn't
fair.
really look like him.
They did a good job of making it so that you were like, okay, I will buy that this is that person 200 years ago.
Two things I wanted to say about that. One, it instantly reminded me of the Superman gate, where
Henry
they
Cavill.
CG'd out his mustache in the beginning of
Yeah.
the Batman versus Superman, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
In the news report, so they could actually kind of blend it in with the TV effect, basically the kind of tube TV effect, but it was too CG and it just didn't feel right because he was moving his mouth and it didn't look natural. The second mistake that I think they definitely made was, and they could have done this a little bit better considering Cooper Howard's state. He was kind of seeing things a little bit blurry. The edges were a little bit on the outside kind of blurry because he was kind of reeled by what Barb had just said.
Right, he was so
stunned.
He was
devastated,
so
stunned,
yeah.
and
however, the blur and method by which they colorized and did that effect with the CG didn't match the rest of the frame. It had this weird 70s, 60s sheen to it. First of all, Henry's or Kyle MacLachlan's look in the scene was very 70s-esque in our world. The long sideburns, the sweeping hair, the suit, the colors in the room, etc. And the way they colorized from the lines on his face to the skin hue as well felt like it was like coming from a 70s film. But the rest of the scene, like the furniture, or at least the atmosphere in the scene, was not reflecting the face. There's a mismatch. By that, I mean, had they filmed all the flashback scenes that way, given it that sheen, that colorization, I think it would have been way more believable. We would have walked in being like, oh, I'm looking at a 70s television set. Obviously, it could have passed a little bit better, but it didn't, because they didn't do everything like that. You could see it. It looks like you're watching a 70s television, but it's only Kyle MacLachlan and not the entire scene. That's what was wrong. It was still Uncanny Valley.
With it, Dave. It's okay. The technology isn't there yet. It's all right.
It is.
We can admit that.
Mistakes were made.
No, it's not. It's not. It's video games.
It's fine.
You can't. Video games, yes, they've gotten exponentially better, but you still cannot draw hair to look realistic. Technology isn't there yet. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's getting better. It's getting a lot better, but it's still not quite.
And also,
fair.
I don't want that, because who wants that? It's so creepy when we have AI stuff.
I'm kind of the opposite of Bridget. I am very much into the show. I've been watching breakdowns and stuff because I really get into it. When I get into something, I get into it. So I've been watching stuff about the game lore, and I really want to play the game, which is going to require me probably buying a PlayStation. We'll see. I got too many other things on the fire right now. I've watched it like 3 times through now. I love everything about it.
Start to finish?
Yeah. It's got everything I love about a show in it. It's funny. It has action, little things you can pick up when you go back and watch it through the second time. Thaddeus talking about how the Brotherhood was going to kill all the ghouls. Yeah, we're going to kill all those ghouls and wipe those effers off the face of the earth. When Ziggy's walking through Philly with the new foot and the doctor is like, hey, I can regrow feet, and then later on he regrows. Right. It's just all those little things they pepper throughout the show that when you go back and watch it again and you catch them, you're like, oh man, that's awesome. And it's got great cinematography. If there's anything I love about the show more than anything else, it is giving a new generation an appreciation for the music that is in this show. I grew up on that music. This is what I listened to when I got in my grandmother's car. So for me, it's really nostalgic.
The games did that for the gamers, and I love how the show did that for the people watching the show, thereby reinvigorating it.
I love the humor. The absurdity of the brain trying to chase Norm down with that little needle stuck out. It was just so...
I'll never tell.
Oh, he's going to find out. There he
Did
goes.
you never find out?
Be still so I can get you with this. It was just so silly and ridiculous.
He just can't see, really.
But
I don't think he has eyes
it.
to see.
You guys know I love period shows. Even though this is not like a real time period, it is. It feels like the 50s.
It has elements. It makes me so happy that you like it so much, because I also really like it a lot, as for reasons I already explained. Yes.
It's like Karina wrote this show, right, Bridget? I did want to say one thing before we moved on. One was, for the most part, I think for a solid 2/3 of this episode, it was all atmospheric music. Raymond, the guy who composed the music for this series.
Raymond Dawadi.
But yeah, until you get to near the end, and then you have the only 2 songs that appear in this episode. One is... Oh, I'll just say it now. Nat King Cole's I Don't Want to See Tomorrow. And again, well placed. And We Three by the Ink Spots, also very well placed. We'll get to that. But I just found it interesting in a series where every episode where I get notes, I'm just scrambling to get the lyrics for 5 different songs that happen to play in the given episode. And in this one, it just happened to be mostly atmospheric.
Ramin Dawadi also did the music for Westworld and for some of Game of Thrones.
Is it Dawadi? I think it's Jawadi. The D and J is a soft G, like a in Arabic. It's like King Batch all over again.
Look here. I don't care.
You didn't- Oh, so it's the Bridget show where
I've heard it both ways.
There was a really neat shot when the ghoul was fighting the Brotherhood and the lights went out and all you could see was the flash from the guns.
Yes.
They used that in Westworld too, and it was very effective in that as well. They had different music with it, of course, but this was a lot more upbeatish. I think it was Beethoven that they played in the Westworld one when we were doing that. It was Allegretto because I made a fear video out of it.
I feel like I need to bring this up now because otherwise I will not. In one of our episodes, I think it was even the last one, I have to say this out loud because it was so funny. They played a song by Mozart. It's Così fan tutti, and loosely translated. And this is about when Betty Pearson was getting elected, or she was doing the vault assignments, I think it was. Yeah, the vault assignments. And loosely translated, it's women, they're like that. Come on, Bridget, gotta unmute that hefty Bridget laughter.
Oh, this is pretty good. This is pretty good.
It was like dead silence from Rachel. Karina elicited a awkward, I guess I'll laugh at this.
I didn't know how to feel
Gotta
about
appease
it.
his ego a little.
Like, what are we trying to
Sharon's
say,
like
Dave?
rolling her eyes, and Bridget's
That's pretty
laughing
funny.
a body laughter, like just completely mute. I've never felt
I'm
so
in a
bad in
hotel,
my
Dave.
entire life.
There's a water park here, dude. Let me
Yeah.
go to the comments, Dave. Okay, Francisco said, Last of Us, Punky is tired. But here's the thing. You sent your last message about the season 2 coming sooner than expected as soon as we were talking about Last of Us. So who's tired now, Francisco? It's not me.
Just we had to get to that point.
Tired, but it's fine. It's fine. Just don't point out that I'm wrong, okay? God.
Yeah. See, I've made this mistake many times,
Be a pro.
Francisco, even though I'm right.
Be a pro.
Just don't do it.
Francisco said the bad guys haven't been introduced yet. I'm guessing this is in regards to the Enclave. I hate Maximus for getting a new status in the Brotherhood for someone he didn't kill.
But that's so Fallout.
I don't agree. But I don't hate completely. He's just there being a good idiot.
Like all of
True.
us.
I'll give you that. Heather said, yep, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And Francisco said, a prediction for next season. What if Vault-Tec didn't really drop the first bomb and Vault-Tec is just being the spokesperson for someone else who actually did? There's theories about Enclave dropping it. Sharon D is right. Vault said they would drop it. They didn't say they did it.
Let me talk about that a little bit. That's a good theory. I'm inclined to agree that that's a possibility because...
By the way, this is the nicest way of saying actually.
No, I mean,
kidding,
for real. I'm trying to say
I'm
it
kidding.
could be true. So
She's the
the
best.
people in the room during the meeting, right, with Vault-Tec, we have Robco, West Tech, Big Mountain, and Repcon. West Tech and Big Mountain are both defense contractors for the U.S. military. So it's possible that the Enclave might be involved, or the U.S. government, because they're both defense contractors for them. The other ones are Robco's software, robotics, aerospace. We kind of went over that a little bit, I think, in the last episode. And then Repcon Aerospace, which is also orbital propulsion, aerospace systems, and weapons. So all of these people potentially could help them facilitate this
all at
bomb
once
dropping. Yeah, like, and I was just going to point out too that all of the ideas that they start sputtering out. What if we overcrowd one of them? What if we put psychotropic drugs in another one? Those are all actual Vault scenarios that happen in different games. So I thought that was cool that they included that.
Why don't we pause right here and go through the ones we actually hear, and then maybe if you have the information, enlighten us.
I just want you to know that Heather said, wait, is this a documentary?
No, I just deep in the lore.
I love that Big Mountain is on the placard. It says Big MT.
Big MT.
Which is, I'm a big Stone Temple Pilots fan, so how about that?
Well, that's a thing in New
Oh,
Vegas.
that's not why.
They call it the Big Empty because there's nothing out
Right,
there.
I was
There you go.
thinking
It's a giant crater.
I was thinking Big Empty was even better because that's what they are going for is empty places. They want to kill everybody and wipe off the surface and make
Should
it
be
empty.
Starting with the first suggestion is in a twist of irony, overcrowd a vault so people have to compete to survive.
And are you asking me to name what vault number?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not that much of a fan.
This is the Karina challenge.
Oh no. Can I Google it?
No. All right. So Repcon
I don't know.
says, have an intelligent milk delivery robot become an overseer, which you did mention in one of the episodes, I think.
Milk delivery robot? I don't remember
You
that
mentioned
one.
that there was an AI that was overseer, or that people had to be sacrificed.
Yeah, I don't think it was an A. Well,
I thought it was AI.
it might have been.
And that you didn't have to listen to it, or the computer, the terminals were.
Here's the thing. Yeah, like I research a lot and I'll learn a lot about the specific thing for in the moment for that episode, and then I forget all of it because
all right, it's time to dump
all
this.
All of my notes are very contingent on the actual episode that we're talking about.
I hear you.
I retain some of the knowledge, but I'm not probably going to be able to answer any of these vault questions, but go ahead, we'll see.
But it sounds like what you had proposed. See, listen, I listen to all of you. I'm like a vulture. I'll use it against you. No, I'm kidding. I'll use it in the episodes because I like you guys. I listen.
Don't you
sometimes.
mean a vulture?
I'm a vulture, yes.
Vulture.
So
vulture.
The dude from West Tech says, develop a super mutant soldier from illegal immigrants. You may have said something about that. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so West Tech is responsible for not only the power armor that they use, but also the forced evolutionary virus that I mentioned that I think that Thaddeus got injected with. Now, I don't remember, or I don't know the specifics because these super mutant things sort of showed up in Fallout 1 and 2, which I never played. They're all computer titles. 3, 4, and New Vegas are the ones that I've played. The origin of the super mutants is not something that I have played through, so I don't know what vault that came from.
Meanwhile, that's probably where I would have started. And I want to start. Actually, I never answered that question, but it has made me want to play the games.
They're very different games if you're going with 1 and 2. I don't even know if they're accessible because
the technology required to play them.
Media preservation is terrible for games. So if they're not remastered into a newer format, it's very hard to access older things.
I know exactly what you mean. CD-ROMs that need to be adapted to newer technology, newer CPUs, and
I really hope that they remaster New Vegas because it was held together by duct tape and bubble gum to begin with when they first made it. So I hope that they'll remaster it and take out some of those bugs so that we can play it on newer formats and more people can experience it, because it really makes me want to play it again. And I have no way to do that because the system that I have doesn't support it. I tried to stream Fallout 3 through like the PlayStation Now thing, and it was terrible. It was stuttering so badly. It was unplayable. I would love to play New Vegas again. I just don't have the hardware to do it because I don't have like a PlayStation 2.
I did run across something, and I can't remember which game this was. I think it was either Fallout 2 or 3. A fan-made project is trying to recreate one of those games. It could be 1, 2, or 3. I can't remember which one, but one of the overworld
like the isometric
games, right, into 3D. So they're trying to make it into a 3D open world sort of situation.
That would be cool. I would love to experience that because I've never played them. So
if I find the video again, I'll post it in the blog. But I think that's really cool that we may end up getting something like that. And if Bethesda decides to throw some money at it, just to see, I think that would be really. I mean, what this developer is doing is they're giving certain sections of the map off to different people across the world to work on, in the hopes that someday someday soon be able to give you the whole game in a 3D format, essentially.
That would be amazing. I would love that.
Let's move on to the next one. Big Empty says, psychotropic drugs in the air supply. We had sort of mentioned that with the things that turned into vegetable monsters.
Yeah, I don't know if they're referencing that. They're responsible for the creation of cyber dogs, advanced stealth suits, holograms, but also cazadors. Yeah,
the damn cazadors.
And some other terrible wasteland hazards. So toxins and things like that. So that's interesting. So possibly they were responsible for the one that you find in New Vegas. I don't know the vault number. I just know it's in New Vegas.
And if we want to link it to the show, possibly responsible for what this is one of those questions that we don't really know and probably don't need to know. The gas that was distributed in Vault 32 to stop the uprising.
It's one of those things we did not get answered, like what actually happened to 32.
Yeah, I was going to leave it for the end, but it's like, it's one of those things that we're never going to know, probably. Yeah. So to Francisco's comment, actually, he said, a guy managed to put Fallout 1 in a Nintendo 3DS. I saw that too.
Yeah.
During I don't know how I even ran across this, but I must have been doing some crazy research for the blog. Last but not least, Repcon says, separate parents from children. Only smart children reach adulthood.
It kills me that I don't know what vault number it is, but it's in Fallout 4. Essentially, they were selectively breeding the kids to have certain abilities, so more strength, more intelligence, that type of thing. And of course, over a period of time that backfired, and then all the children that were like wildly more physically stronger than all of these researchers and wildly more intelligent than them, they rebelled because they were euthanizing the kids who were not strong enough or smart enough. That was one of the vaults in 4. Again, my brain is not made for numbers. So
Thanks, Repcon. No, yeah. I wouldn't worry about the numbers.
Great idea.
The comments will be like, "You're so stupid. It's vault 5,000,003."
Is it bad that doesn't make me nearly as mad as the Enclave putting puppies in the incinerator?
I know, yeah.
You're a monster?
Okay, so arguably, what is the worst thing that Vault-Tec has ever done? And a lot of people think it's the one with the computer system that makes you sacrifice somebody.
That's
like the overseer gets sacrificed. Is it though? Maybe. I don't know. They're all pretty bad. Like, I feel like if you were in any of those situations, they would all seem like the worst thing ever.
Who doesn't like a throwback to Mayan times?
If I had to give birth to finger babies and they would eat me right afterwards, I don't think I want to be in that vault.
Well, just like Barb said to him, she's like, I want to get into one of the good vaults. One of the ones that isn't going to be an experiment is what she didn't say. But you know.
That's the worst part. You hear this before they even say the worst of it.
Yeah.
It's like, we know we're going to get bad ideas. First of all, everybody's arguing and having their suggestions or whatever. That this is stupid. Well, you guys are dumb. Blah, blah, blah. Barb cuts in all of a sudden after looking at her Pip-Boy. And you're meant to think at first, okay, oh, she figures out who's listening. No, it's easy to miss. She's getting instructions from a shadowy figure in the back of the room behind glass. Now, I thought of this as we're recording right now, but let's go back. So there obviously is somebody in Vault-Tec that runs Vault-Tec. This is the head honcho. Okay, I'm going to ask Karina, do you know who that might be? Don't say who it is.
No.
Okay, cool. I have this weird thought. It looks like a male figure. It looks like a sort of elderly-ish figure. Does everybody agree so far?
Yeah, he definitely looked male.
He was very shadowed.
Right. I'm going to go out on a limb here because, and I don't usually do this. You know me. I'm like, that doesn't seem plausible. But in this scenario, it wouldn't be so strange considering we see people from the past coming into the future and suddenly showing up for some reason and deciding to play a cult leader of some kind. The shadowy fella in the background giving Barb instructions kind of did look like Cleric Quintus.
That's what I was thinking too.
Okay.
Yeah.
It makes sense that you would create a religion that hoards pre-war technology just to keep it from the Wastelanders so that they can't defend themselves. Second, it's all about dominance. At one point, the Brotherhood of Steel ran the Wastelands according to him in show canon. The Mojave, whatever. How did they lose control? Was it the NCR? Yeah, it sounds like, right? Until somebody dropped a nuke. And if what's-his-face is behind the scenes in Vault-Tec, and there maybe is some sort of coordination with the vaults of some kind, there would be a concerted effort to put down, and an excuse necessary to put down Shady Sands / NCR. Big time prediction if it's true.
My first question when you were saying all that is, if the whole thing was his idea, why is he in the wasteland and not in a vault?
Because, well, nobody seems to know who this person is, first of all. He prefers the shadows.
Say he saw the destruction that was wrought. Maybe he didn't like the way they did it, and he splintered off and went and did his own thing.
So at first I was thinking what you're thinking, but then I thought, wouldn't it be just genius to create a cult? To be the person to engineer the means by which nobody can defend themselves. Well, Bridget's shaking her head. You can't just shake your head.
It's so cute that you think that you don't do this all the time, because you do. Me and Rachel, when you said I don't do this all the time and you went off into your harebrained scheme, we both were like this. Because you do.
How many times am I right,
moving on from that.
Enough for it to be hella annoying.
True story. A cult leader, that's going to be, you have the option to become one of the most powerful people in the world, and you choose cult leader?
But what did I say about Betty Pearson?
Okay, bro.
Rachel, why don't you repeat what I said about Betty Pearson? Because you said it.
Well, cult leaders don't think that they're cult leaders.
No, he knows he's a cult leader.
They just think they're like different. This isn't a cult. This is a religion.
Oh, well, okay. I'm sorry. You know what?
I'm cultivating real connections.
Yeah,
I'm happy to
exactly.
rephrase.
It's a brotherhood.
It's a
not
brotherhood,
cult.
bro. Why are you criticizing my religion? Anyway, but no, let's semantics aside. Wouldn't it be interesting for him to play that role? And kind of like Moldaver says at the end, you're going to get credit for this. The power is in your hands. What would the Brotherhood do with all this free energy if given the chance? And I wonder, is that why they went after Wilzig? Perhaps as far as the show goes, and I'll believe you when you say the Enclave is the former U.S. government. I'm with you. What if there's coordination? What if the U.S.
Well, dude, we didn't make that up. That's
I felt offended.
You're like, I'll believe you. We didn't make it up.
I use show canon. It's funny because I know as much as the show does reflect the games, there are some differences. But I'm of the person who says, okay, I can take in all the stuff from the games, but when I operate, it's fine if you don't. But when I operate, it's the same. We did the same thing with The Walking Dead. When we operate from whatever canon we operate from or whatever knowledge we operate, I love to go by what I see on the screen. That informs me. If I'm getting something from the games, I think it's a good seasoning for the show. I have to operate based on the show, what the show tells me. Otherwise, it's like, now you're feeding me something you say I should know, but you didn't show it to me.
I will state that Francisco says, I think the person in the shadow is the president, which may be a hint to Enclave for the next season.
And the coordination there, that's fine too. Listen, I'm a harebrained son of a bitch. Sometimes I'm right about these things.
I'm fine. I can get behind what you're saying. I don't think the ultimate goal would be cult leader. But anyway, the reason I can get behind it is because Moldaver is somehow unaged, and we don't know exactly what happened there. Now, sure, we can assume it's cryogenics. The technology clearly exists in this world. Technically, it exists in our world, but...
Well, the billboard kind of said it itself.
If that ain't the biggest scam...
I think she's a ghoul that has just managed to keep exceptionally well preserved.
That would be
maybe.
a first.
That would be a really big deal.
She got shot at the end, and presumably she's dead. So if she was ghoul, I think she would have been able to walk that off.
Oh, man. I hate that you said that. Because
I'm sorry.
No, I have an answer for that, and it's also harebrained. Okay, so I'm thinking to myself, because I went 3 steps ahead that I shouldn't have.
But he never does this.
And then how many times am I right? 60% maybe. I have a good hit rate, but...
Wow.
For the audio podcast...
That's on bleep, those. Bleep that.
Rachel... Wait, bleep what?
Pixelate.
Don't pixelate the...
Bleep it. Just bleep it.
For the audio podcast, Rachel flipped me 2 birds for that one. But let's just say you said it best, Karina, when she invented cold fusion, something even in our time we can't crack. Cryo beds in New Vegas, the billboard at the end credits. Okay, check.
Yeah. Well, cryo beds at work too, because as of right now, all you can do is freeze yourself and hope that we figure out the technology later.
Right, buds.
That's not really. That's why it's the world's biggest scam.
But in the show, at least it's proven true. But that's fine. We'll leave that aside. But something you had said, Karina, in one of our previous episodes about the forced evolutionary virus was that it just kind of went awry. It just, it didn't quite work out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah.
And with the super mutants in the Enclave, or at least that one super mutant as a subject, or maybe they captured it in the wild or whatever, I wouldn't be surprised if Moldaver perfected the forced evolutionary virus. And that's what she's operating off of. And that's why she's able to stay as young-ish as she is all this time. And if Cleric Quintus, which by the way means fifth in Latin, if I'm to believe that he is Vault-Tec's head honcho and just disguising himself as this cleric, well, then wouldn't he develop a weapon that would disrupt the forced evolutionary virus, thereby being able to kill Moldaver?
Potentially possible. So the main issue with the forced evolutionary virus as we know it in the games is it mutates you, it evolves you into very big, very strong, turns your skin green. Aside from all the other aesthetic changes, you can't reproduce as a super mutant. So they have to make more super mutants, and eventually you're going to run out of people to change into super mutants. So it's not sustainable, which is why it's a failure. If she perfected it in such a way that she didn't have all those changes and she could continue, I don't know though, because it's also supposed to give you like super strength and all that other stuff. I don't know if she had any of those things. I don't know that they showed her doing anything extraordinary strength wise. Maybe that's a possibility. I don't think it's outside the realm of reality in this show, in these games.
I have this image in my head of her throwing Hank over her shoulder like a big old baby.
Right.
and just walking around
carrying
with him. Yeah. Sorry, that was for me.
But then the idea of if it's the president or whoever Quintus is starting this cult to kind of gather up all this technology, I mean, it kind of makes sense. I don't know if like cult leader, maybe that's just an ego thing, if that would be the most efficient way to do that, but it seems to be working. I will say the whole fight scene at the end between the Brotherhood of Steel and the NCR is very on point because they have diametrically opposed goals. So the Brotherhood is trying to gather up all this technology to keep it away from everyone else. And the NCR wants to use the technology to better people's lives. Both of them think they're doing the right thing, because I always side with the NCR in the games anyway. I would argue that the NCR is the lesser of the evils, because what could they do with cold fusion too that would be just as evil or nefarious as whatever the Brotherhood is going to do with it, which is probably just exactly what Vault-Tec did. It's just put it on the shelf and not use it.
Although, what better time to use it than now?
Exactly. But I think that the Brotherhood is not going to do that. They hoard it for themselves.
Right.
If they're going to use it, they're going to use it for themselves. But clearly, as we've mentioned before, with infrastructure issues, they don't seem to care about making their lives better. They just want to keep it away from everybody else.
Right.
They use weapons and things like that for themselves. But toasters, what does a toaster do?
Right.
Who wants bread cooked twice? Why would that be a good thing?
On both sides? Gasp.
You could distract them with delicious buttery toast.
Toast,
Instead
yeah.
of, here you go. Would you like some toast? Because, they're hungry.
Right, yeah.
This does
Win
go
over
to
with the toast.
something that I mentioned about the Brotherhood of Steel and is reinforced in this episode a little bit because of the inconsistency. And that is, I can see a world in which somebody starts the Brotherhood for completely noble efforts or means, thinking, okay, let's not let this happen again. Let's not put pre-war stuff or technology or artifacts, as they call it, in the hands of the people that will just go ahead and do it all over again. And let's operate under the premise that the whole reason for the Brotherhood is a faulty one, and it's just to make the wasteland fall so that they can never progress. Well, then something that Cleric Quintus says to Maximus, it's always been about not using violence unless people are violent with us or people are trying to resist our mission or something to that effect, that we hear in the first episode. But then he does this weird reversal thing. He says something to the effect of, power is taken, not given, which is not the Brotherhood's mission. It's not about power. This is what started me down this road of thought that led me ultimately, as we were talking about, thinking that it could have been him in the shadows.
Maybe they meant power as in electric
I was thinking
power.
that I wrote this down too. Literal power as in the energy crisis.
Right. Power is taken, not given.
Which opened up another question. Did they know that what they were ultimately going to be after in the observatory, which is the NCR's headquarters, quote unquote, because it looks like they either kickstarted it again or that it was always there. Did they know that they were going in to get the cold fusion? And I asked this of all of you because there's the target that they were supposed to go after, the head, which Moldaver ultimately gets, but the Brotherhood is aware of. Was it a bounty?
I'm kind of seeing like an allegory here. The Brotherhood is the church, and the Enclave is the government, and the NCR are the people. So if you look at it that way, then I think they absolutely knew what they were going after, because they're probably very clued in as to what's going on, especially if they're working with the Enclave.
What you're saying is the Enclave is working for the Brotherhood. Church and state are not separated. Essentially.
Right.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know if we ever discovered like how the Brotherhood came to know about this Enclave defector. Did the Enclave ask them to find it, and that would maybe support the connection?
I thought it was because
there?
they sent out a bounty.
They
the
did,
Enclave
which
sent
is
out
how
a
the
bounty.
Ghoul found out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
It's just interesting. This show is great. I gotta say. And even if I'm wrong,
At the very least, knowing that the man was a defector from the Enclave and he was important enough to put a bounty on, they may not have known exactly what they were after, but they probably figured it was something that they could use to their advantage no matter what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this does go back to the blackboard also from the second episode, The Target, where you see Maxwell's something or other. I can't remember exactly what it was about. Magnetic fields, containment. It seems like he cracked the code. He took the cold fusion from cold storage and made it a viable thing. And so this is what I'm saying, though. So you have to draw the connection. Vault-Tec shelved that technology away, and somehow that technology found its way to the Enclave. This is where you draw the comparison. Where that relationship starts and ends, we don't know. But it seems to me like the Brotherhood does know what they're after.
You just said a minute ago that the Brotherhood is about keeping the people from progressing.
But more to the point, it's about keeping the wasteland unarmed.
What would keep them down even more than the lack of power, electric power? I know this is a wasteland, much like today, because obviously they have power of some sort. They are powering things. So much like today, we couldn't live without power.
But it makes things livable.
Yeah.
We as a society would not have progressed to where we are today without electric power of some sort. So,
or some energy
by
source.
taking the power from the people, the Brotherhood is stopping them from progressing. So maybe they did know exactly what they were after, and they were like, we have to get this because we don't want people to have the ability to power their homes. Assuming they know history, they know where power took us in the history.
Starting from the industrial age and then moving up as technology exponentially grew from there down to the semiconductor. And maybe to your point, Creed, in the first episode, I know I'm going way back, it's possible that somebody invented the transistor and that technology was held back because what better to control the populace, to make people dependent on older technology, but retro older technology that is unstable, maybe.
To what Titus was saying about a toaster, they sent me out for a toaster. The thing is, depending on how advanced that toaster was in this alternate timeline, you could learn a whole lot about circuitry and things like that from a toaster that would benefit you. That is something else that would progress, and you would be where you could do things that would help society progress. And again, the Enclave doesn't want that.
I think Francisco in the Discord chat brought up like a smart toaster, like one that actually had a personality or like an AI in it or something.
That's right.
Like I vaguely remember it. I don't really recall the specifics, but yeah, it could have been like a really smart toaster. Like,
I remember running across it either in the Discord where he dropped some images about that, but the dialogue between you and the smart toaster, essentially. I saw that.
Toaster, how do you work? How do I create electricity? How do you work?
Like, how do you think I work, idiot? It was a very rude toaster.
Make toast. Make toast, dummy.
Yeah, I make your life just so much better. Anyway, and all of these can apply, but also just very simply, what is the best cover story but being consistent and orthodox? It doesn't apply to just atomic power or fusion cores, or it doesn't just apply to power sources or cars. It's everything. Everything must go. And so it's the best cover story. I mean, if we're going to run with this theory that Bridget is not loving me for some reason, yet again, and Cooper Howard does fall into this category of they're taking away all the things I was famous for, even though I was plastered everywhere in their offices. I was all about roaming free on the prairie, running on my own steam, feeding my own cows, getting products from those cows to feed myself, etc. All of those things, to be self-reliant in my own way and having minimal involvement from corporations and electric companies and whatnot. Being able to defend myself with my own gun and my own morality, as we had said and the show had said also, I guess.
To have my own dog.
To have my own dog in my own vault, my own dag.
Yeah.
There is interplay here. And if we are to believe that, and he says this at the end of the episode, something, I forget what it was. You look at the wasteland, it looks like chaos, but there's always somebody behind the wheel. And I just want to meet who that is. It's Quintus. Okay. Bridget's shaking your head. At least she's smiling. Okay, cool. I can win some other time.
So one of the things I was thinking as I was rewatching is Lucy learning what you learn in the vault isn't necessarily all the truth. Your whole life is kind of a lie. Would she have had the same reaction to Moldaver's story and actually listened, or would she just been like, no, give me my daddy, and left without finding the truth?
Well, Lucy runs specifically on the she runs specifically on the concept of the golden rule, which is do unto others as you would have done unto you. The fact that her father is a liar is the ultimate deal breaker for her. She believed her entire life that he was this honest man who had her best interest at heart, And then she comes to learn that she was with her mother outside of the vault and safe and happy and had potential to have this life above ground, which really is the ultimate goal for the vault dwellers, is to eventually have people live above ground again. So for that all to be taken away, and not only just taken away, but for innocent lives to be shed just so he could have his spawn back. Because I won't even say daughter, because I don't think that value is there for him. And there's the flashback for Maximus also, to him stepping out of the refrigerator. And there's a guy in a power suit standing over the rubble of this destroyed city. That's probably Hank in that power suit.
Oh, you
Just
bitch.
the thought.
You bitch. That is
That's
so
probably
good.
Hank.
I did not think of that.
Also, because of the way that Hank has lived his life and the way that he's kind of set forth this, like, this is the pedestal that you should hold yourself to, while he's not at all holding to any of those characteristics, he did the same thing to Maximus unknowingly. He was in front of Maximus. Maximus saw that, idolized that life, and then followed that life to his detriment. We now find out this is not actually what he wants. He just wants family. He's just unexperienced when it comes to what life can actually be like. And that's all he truly wants, is really what all of us want, which is just love. Ultimately, when
You don't have to be the
boil it all
smartest
down.
person. You don't have to have the
Yeah, that's what it
reach
comes
for
down
the
to.
ring.
You want to be loved by other people. And hopefully you want to be loved by somebody that you can spend the rest of your life with. That would be nice. I think for Lucy, I don't think it mattered how Moldaver handled any of it. It was really the truth coming out about her dad. That is what did it. Long story short. Sorry, went off on a real tangent there.
Thank you for doing that, because there's some nuggets in there that I hadn't thought of at all. It probably being Hank, and then the rest of the Brotherhood
I
coming in.
don't know that it is. I've seen it talked about online.
But
so
do you think that her change after leaving the vault
like came specifically from living outside of the vault?
Is why she was like, yes, I will listen to what you're saying about my dad, rather than just blindly listening to her father? Because I believe that had she walked out of the vault and not had any adventures and like the next day found her dad, she wouldn't have listened to anything really. She would have been like, let's go. But
Yeah.
because she had so many episodes.
Well, she says it herself in the episode. She says there's so many people out here that look like they'll help you, but really seeing the state of the world topside really changed her attitude towards people in general. All the people she's known all her life have been in the vaults. They've all been pretty nice.
It's anybody's story. There's two different types of stories. This is a hero's journey, clearly. Any hero's journey is going to involve they're in a specific place in their life. When they're exposed to new material and experiences, it changes the outlook that they have.
Or
you can say that about
weakness,
anybody.
yeah.
So sure, those outside experiences definitely changed the way that I think she kind of framed everything, but she didn't lose that intrinsic need to do good. Even going with Cooper, yeah, she's going to go with him and try to solve this, but do you really think like she's just going to be done with being who she is? That's who she is. She wants Cooper to see the value in people again. You could argue that like her entire mindset shifted because she put down her mom, even though she criticized Cooper for doing the same thing earlier.
And that's just a callback. No hesitation, too.
She finally understood why he did it. She understands that it was
It's a
to
mercy.
be right. Exactly. He was
The
being
quality of
merciful,
mercy.
even though again Roger and Mom were in slightly different conditions.
Small question. Did you think that the feral ghoul tied to her chair, we find out it's a her later, did you think that was Rose the whole time? Or did it just dawn on you later on?
No, as soon as I saw her tied, I assumed that was the mom.
It took me a while.
Yeah, I didn't make the connection immediately, but
Isn't that great?
when Lucy figured it out, I was like, oh dang. And then it seemed like there was a little more between Moldaver and Rose.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think that was left to be ambiguous to the viewer so you could make the decision about how that went. Because I think you're going to take from that whatever you want to. Now, I'm a firm believer in we don't always have to be romantic. We can just be friends. That's always like what I champion for. In my opinion, Rose was leaving a man who she found out was a complete liar. And on top of that, had manipulated her into the position that she was in to have children with him. So I think she could view that as like, this is a really toxic and abusive situation for me to be in. I'm going to leave it. When that happens, you look for other women who can help to support you because your trust in men is pretty shattered. I don't know that it goes romantic. It could. I'm not opposed to that. But I think it also could have been just finding that support when you really, really, really needed it.
And that's very important because that leaves it open for the audience to take any personal tragedy and connect with that situation.
That's really kind of what I meant by it too. Just the way she grabbed her hand and the way she talked to her.
And kept her around all this time.
Yeah, there was a
too.
relationship there. She deeply cared for Rose.
It's interesting too, because as Moldaver stumbles in, Maximus comes to, what is the first thing you hear in the background?
Rose is the command to open the door.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah. She was outside the door and you hear her say Rose and then the door opens. Because why would she be calling out for her knowing she can't answer?
But she talked to her anyway. She was like, Rose, we did it. But maybe she just got in the habit. Also, she knew she was dying.
That's what I thought too. But I like what you said, Rachel.
I like that idea, though.
It does not need to be a right or wrong answer here. I just like the dimensions.
Yeah.
The way that they make the shows is it leaves so much to interpretation to the viewer, which I love. I don't want them to tell me what to think or what to feel. Like, I want to be able to make up my own mind when I'm watching the show.
I could see Rachel going, please tell me what to think and feel, because I want to know who the good guys and bad guys are.
No, I mean, I like just enough for me to formulate an opinion. I do want to have a clear storyline.
Lead me into the right direction, please.
Yeah, point me in the right direction, but then I'll take it from there. I can decide what's happening.
That's why when you guys were talking about, well, Vault-Tec didn't say that they dropped the bomb. I think it's left ambiguous enough that you can have that opinion, but I also don't want them to lay everything out. And then this happened, and then we did this, and then we did that, because it takes away the imagination that we get to have when we watch TV. Yeah, it's just TV,
but
I get to...
in a sense?
Yes, like show, don't tell.
I don't want to feel stupid. Put it out there and let me draw my own conclusions. That's what makes great TV great.
Yes,
that's
I
why
agree.
You can go back and watch episodes over and over again, because you always get, well, maybe they didn't mean it that way. I've seen this episode 5 times, but after rewatching, maybe this is different than what I was thinking. I love that.
That's why I like getting together for these conversations, because, man, you guys threw things that I really had not even considered. And now I get to have that wrench thrown in my thought process. And if I do, and I never will, rewatch these episodes over again, just because it's the way I am. I don't, because I take the notes already. It's already in here in the brain. It's in my hard drive.
404 file not found.
Right. I'm editing this version of the file in episode 1X08 and whatever. You get the idea, is that now I can ruminate on that and extrapolate based on that. Because I mean, some of the things that we've said in this series is because you've said something and I go back to it. I'm like, I want to give you proper attribution because you put a bug in my brain. And now I'm thinking along your lines and just adding to that thing. It's a wonderful process.
Did they kill everybody in Philly, or did they just push them out of town?
It would be consistent if they did kill everybody in Philly.
Yeah.
We took care of Philly, or Philly's all cleared out. Some of the residents didn't like it or fought back or something, because I would hate to think that Ma June is dead.
Fallout on Prime account on Instagram posted about that. Where's Ma June? We'll riot if Ma June's not there anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a good shot of her too.
Based on what you just said, because I don't remember it specifically, but it sounds like they pushed people out because they were taking it over as their base, and probably killed people who didn't want to do that or didn't listen to them.
I feel like Ma June would be smart enough to leave and then come back when they were done, because she'd be like, I'm not messing with them. I'm just going to let them do what they want, and they'll leave eventually and I'll come back.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You just got me thinking. Well, think of all the pre-war technology Ma June has too. Basically recovered. What business does she have left?
They weren't really worried about that, though.
No.
They think some corruption's okay.
They probably confiscated it. Like,
is that where they were getting all their weapons when they were suiting up to go fight?
Maybe. She had a lot to choose from.
Oh, yeah. That's not a bad thought.
They could have come from that dirigible at the very beginning that's hovering
called
over
a Condor,
Philly.
you said? I think it was?
It's called the Pride Wind.
Okay.
It's an airship, sort of akin to like a helicarrier from the Avengers. So it can hold those vertibirds in it as like a docking station. It's sort of like a mobile base that they use. And it is in Fallout 4. I looked it up. I was wondering if they had more than one. There's only one. So it's that one.
As you go into the scene, Maximus is going to the steps. I just wanted to remark on one small visual kind of funny thing. You know how, Sharon, you were remarking on the signs in Philly? The barber slash...
It's like dentist slash barber.
Yeah, dentist slash barber. And all those cool signs retrofitted to suit whatever, or crossed out and says something else or whatever. The signs leading up to Claire Quintus as Maximus is rolling up, there's signs that literally say stop, the stop sign, one way. So I'm thinking, okay, the Brotherhood, there's only one way. Stop here. Maximus, don't go any further. The scene keeps going and I keep seeing more signs, like also no dumping is another municipal sign. But then it's almost as if it's trying to tell you on the nose. One of the last signs you see before you see Cleric Quintus is steel and metal. And I'm like, okay, could you be any more obvious? Okay, Brotherhood of Steel, I get it. Okay.
All right, I get it.
Okay, stop, one way, steel and metal.
Yeah.
Anyway, visual storytelling is even funny in this series. So kudos. But there are like little things that you will miss, like the Geiger counter scanning the head, looking for the artifact, and it's not present. This is what led me to the idea of like they do know what they're looking for. It's not about the target and the dog, because you got the facts with the bubbling in of the grid paper, and you're like, oh, we're looking for people and a dog. We're looking for the dog and the guy. We're not looking for anything else. No, they know what they're looking for. They knew what to scan for.
I told you they don't want to let them progress.
I think that the Brotherhood is worried that by progressing technology or giving them access to things that make their lives easier, that they're going to fall into the same problems that society did before. They're just going to use those things to kill people.
Smoke screen,
and that's
I say.
what they're trying to avoid. Yeah.
Okay.
They're keeping people down, but I think it's in their best interest.
But I do want to go back to power taken rather than given, because this seems to be a policy change. Don't you think?
People are fallible. So even if they're representing something that says, oh, we're just here to literally just take pre-war technology away from people who would use it for ill. But this guy is in power, Quintus. He specifically may have a different ideal, and therefore it's coloring his decisions and the reasons that he chooses to let Maximus continue to live when Thaddeus for sure thought they were just going to execute him as soon as they found him. But that didn't happen because Quintus has a different opinion of how things should be. Is it a policy change all over, or is it just him?
And of all the things to believe that he didn't believe about Maximus, that he gave him the right head, you get the idea by this episode. It's not as though he believed Maximus didn't put the razor blade in Dane's boot. He all but believed that he did do that, but his conviction made it so that he could, well, let's try this out. Like you said, let's see if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, well, we got rid of one more squire. When Maximus says, and finally the persuasion check works, but mostly because it's factual, Knight Titus died running. Quintus immediately knew that this happens way too often. That's what it felt like. This is how good an actor that guy is. You know, that guy is. That guy. He shows it in his face. And so it's as though he's like, well, the way we're doing things isn't working. We need to change the strategy because we lost the wasteland to NCR. Somebody came in, we don't know who, is Hank, nuked the NCR, and we have an opportunity now. And people have been resting on their haunches. We're dropping breadcrumbs right now to support maybe a dumb theory. But that theory aside, it means that the lore that we know from both the games and the show is changing about at least this West Coast Brotherhood. And that's exciting because now everybody is going to see a change. Everybody gets to experience an evolution of the thing that we thought we knew that was consistent and orthodox for centuries.
Well, something that Hank says towards the end of the episode where he's like, what better way to keep all these factions from fighting is to just get rid of the faction. But the thing is, it's in our nature to separate out and faction up. And even the Brotherhood shows that and demonstrates the West Coast faction of the Brotherhood is different than the East Coast faction of the Brotherhood. They're the same faction, but even they have differing opinions and ways of operating already.
Yeah, there's the kernel of it, right? And then there's how we go about it.
Exactly. West Coast is a lot more dogmatic and a lot more oppressive, orthodox, and East Coast is a lot more helpful with people and only taking away truly dangerous things like mini nukes and power armor and stuff like that, and leaving technology like water chips and stuff like that to help benefit people's lives.
Yeah, or at least providing a guiding hand. Like, okay, well, here you can have this.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then we'll monitor this.
To me, it shows that Hank's opinion, again, he's doing what he thinks is the best solution for everyone, but it's a flawed opinion because, say, he successfully wipes out all of these factions on the surface and the vaults go up and start doing their thing like they always plan to. At some point, people are going to section off and faction and have differing opinions about what we should do next, where we should go, where we should settle, how we should build this, how we should govern ourselves. All that stuff is going to start to fracture them again. It's never going to change. Like, war never changes, but human nature also doesn't seem to change.
And this is something
easily.
Barb says also in her own monologue.
The settlers that came to America on the Mayflower, they were almost all going for the same reason, and they still couldn't agree when they got there on what to do. It was infighting.
It's so common.
That's just human nature.
Exactly.
Well, especially going on that point, when you reach a new world and you really have to rely on that faith in order to feel like there is a guiding hand in all of this. Well, let's take away the Mayflower and go to the wasteland. How is anybody to believe that there is a guiding hand or a guiding principle that will work in this scenario? I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean,
It's hard to believe in something in this kind of world. It's almost impossible. So I don't blame people for going for the Brotherhood of Steel, because at least there's some sort of guiding principle, some sort of order. But other than that, I can see people peeling off. And like Quintus says with his reaction, oh, he ran away again. You thought that this was a guiding hand and a principle that we could stand behind, and yet knights have been running away. We have been resting on our laurels, let's say. And then enter all that wireless, limitless, free energy. How does that change the universe? This is a fundamental change to the universe, unless they stop it in the very next scene, let's say, or the next first episode. Like, well, we shut that down.
Yeah. Well, the Brotherhood has it, and I would not be surprised if they just shut it off.
Right.
And they're like, no, we're not doing that.
But just like Lucy being exposed to the outside world, all these machines are whirring back online in the wasteland. How do you go back? Oh,
Yeah.
This air conditioner is working again. These lights are turning on. My oven is working. It's kind of cold it was at night. So it's like, oh, it's kind of cold. Oh, this oven is working. What the hell?
The people would riot.
That's what I'm saying is like, how do you go back?
Yeah.
You
They
can't
sort
go
of,
back.
by turning it on, they've sort of opened a can of worms because it immediately
David just
became
said,
available
"Fuck
to everyone.
I just want to say that Bud Askins has the cutest car I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It's
That
a
little,
bubble car,
I want
technically.
that
Bubble
car.
car, yeah.
Go to England. I think they
Bubble
recently
car.
made an electric version of that. Not that, obviously, and it looks newer, but England, home of the bubble cars. Can we go back to Bud Askins for a hot sec? Did you think differently about him as a result of this episode than you did in prior episodes?
No, he was still a douchey jerk.
Yeah. I didn't dislike him enough. I feel
Have an
like I was
opinion.
very much like Cooper, who was just like, oh gosh, this guy again. Like, like, I can't wait for him to stop talking to me. Like, that's the look he always had on his face. That's kind of how I felt about him. Like, oh my gosh, this dude. And so in a way, it kind of makes sense why maybe everybody felt that way about him, which is why he became a brain on a Roomba.
And everybody penned him in.
Because, like,
it's like,
yeah,
okay,
just
I can't.
So
leave him
very,
over there. Like, he got what he wanted. Just
very-
shut
He never
up.
sleeps.
very Futurama, the brain on the Roomba.
He's having a hard time. I'm feeling bad for Roomba Bud Askins right now.
But Askins.
I thought you said Roomba butt.
Also, I don't know if you guys recall the graffiti that was written on the wall in the vault
Death
when
to
Chet.
management.
Death
wasn't
to
it?
management.
Yeah.
So part of whatever vault number that is, I don't even freaking remember.
32.
32.
It was 32.
32. Part of that fall
Nice
wasn't
call.
just people coming in. They rioted. They figured out what was going on and they self-destructed.
More than
Their
what we
entire
thought.
lives were lies. How would you respond to that in a normal way? You can't. That would break your brain. It's like the Truman Show all over again. Like you just wouldn't be okay.
It's good that you brought up that exact nugget because those words are pretty specific.
Instead of goodbye,
Yeah.
good evening, and good night, it's toodles and a non.
Some interesting things that transpired in this episode. One is Maximus is having a moment with Dane.
He's vindicated.
Yeah, Dane spills that he didn't want to venture out into the wilderness, and that's why he sabotaged his own boot.
Seems like the dumbest way to do that, but all right.
But I get it because masturbating in the bunk. There's a lot of things that happen that leads me to believe also the rampant bullying and beating of people. Fine. But then it veers off into an interesting conversation where Maximus says, I found a place, I'm going to spend my days in a vault. I'm going to be with her in a vault because it's safe. It feels like all vaults are the same, right? Anyway, Dane says something to the effect of, he looks at him askant. Basically says nowhere is safe. You can't escape. Did you pick up on that? Dane may know something that Maximus doesn't, or maybe Dane might have been from a vault?
That's a possibility.
I noticed
I
the
didn't
lack of
get that.
shock.
Yeah.
It seemed
Yeah.
when he said she's from a vault, there wasn't the reaction that I expected. It was weird.
My
Right.
thought is that, like Ma June was like, oh, vault dwellers are all kind of naive and they don't know what they're talking about, almost as if Dane thinks, oh, this guy got won over by some vaulty. He's falling into a cult. It's a cult. Or being that he's been helping Quintus and those higher ups, maybe he's had a chance to overhear some things about vaults and about higher mission operations and stuff like
Stop
that.
feeding
So
it.
maybe
They hate
he
you
has
for it.
more knowledge.
We'll never leave.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. I didn't think that initially. That's a really good thought. I'm not opposed to it. I had felt more like that look was because Maximus is so naive.
Well, isn't everybody though? If you think about it. And I want to point out something that Sharondy said in an earlier episode, which is, of course, Thaddeus loves the fiddle music. He's never really heard music, or Maximus in the vault, just watching the TV like a couch potato. Because what's that? And the popcorn and the oysters and everything. So I was thinking to myself, well, Dane is in that same position. What makes Dane any different? But maybe Dane is different. We can leave it there. Again, we don't have answers, but it's fun to think
Right.
about. Let's take a quick pause because I feel bad. We have to go back to Francisco. Electropower is gold for wastelanders, much like rebuild society in The Walking Dead should be the goal for every survivor. Societies wouldn't be anywhere with science, which includes electricity. Yup, the angry toaster from Fallout New Vegas, ha 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 ha, which is, I think the toaster does laugh at you. Anyway, I wonder what route Hank took to get to New Vegas. He really walked there with the power armor when walking there without armor would be suicide. That's interesting. He does look a little bit worse for the wear.
I mean, I think he flew, right? Because he was
part
flying.
of it.
You can glide a little bit, yeah. I don't think you can like fly.
Forever.
You can sort of like drift down. He probably used that to get out of like, they were in an observatory, so elevated. So he probably glided himself down to a lower elevation and then walked the rest of the
Then
way.
again, you said he could probably jump from any height and hit the ground, but I
Take no fall damage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
he'll be fine.
Then again, if there is gunfire down there and he's a little exposed, as the ghoul made
Yeah, he doesn't have
apparent.
a helmet on.
Yeah, Bud is the type of boss you can't wait to punch, and maybe that's why he's in a brain jar.
All right, if you were on set, what item would you want to take from the set to be your souvenir?
I love the propaganda posters.
Yeah.
That's like very much in my wheelhouse as something I would collect.
I know exactly what I'm going to say. It's the most boring answer. I'm serious. It's the decor. It's
Yeah.
just bits and pieces of it, like end tables or light fixtures or things like. Not all of it because it's so bad together. Because I'm such an old person
Altogether.
with a home now.
I would take Walton Goggins' little face.
No, that's it. You take Walton.
Just Walton
Sorry, I cut
Goggins.
you off. I was like, that's it. No, Walton Goggins.
I mean, is that an option? Or?
It's on the set. It's on the set.
That's true.
I missed what you said. His posters.
No, his ghoul face.
Oh,
His
okay. His gold face.
prosthetics.
At the end of the day, when they take it off, I'd be like, I'll just take this.
Let's put it on my face like Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
Well, they can't reuse it. He gets a new one every day.
Yep.
I would want to have a pit
Yeah,
boy.
I was
That is
thinking
so
that.
cute.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
I think I want a man and his dog poster.
Yeah.
So, yeah, different kind of poster. I like it. My answer's so boring by comparison.
Decor. A carpet.
I would be happy
Yeah.
with a working Mr. Handy that would say,
Oh, yeah. Good evening, madam.
But it's the Dave AI voice, though. So that's the condition. Rachel's
Oh,
shaking her
no.
head.
No.
Does he clean my house?
I, Bartholomew Cogsworth, am ever ready to serve.
Oh, it'd be this. It's my voice. It would say, "Hi, I'm Bartholomew Codsworth. I'm ready to serve."
No.
That was good, though, right? For the AI
No
voice.
thanks.
Clean
No,
my
thanks.
toilet, Dave.
I'm
would
happy to
also-
clean your toilet. That's how it sounds. It's so.
Oh my gosh.
It's not
Soulless.
monotone, but it's just very soulless. Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's how anybody feels when they're about to clean the toilet.
Soulless.
Yeah, you draw a good point. I get really excited about it, though.
I would also take the fork from Stephanie's eye.
The Ford.
Yeah,
I would
yeah,
like
yeah.
to take Monty, if that's okay.
Oh, gosh.
That's a person, and slavery is
It's a
illegal.
person?
No.
I mean, if we're taking anyone offset, it's Chet. Am I right? Hubba hubba.
Oh, Dave Register.
I would
It's
like
cute, yeah.
the Ziggy prosthetic head. I think that
You
would
keep
be
saying
fun.
this. It's
Actual
Siggy
head.
Wilzig.
It's Ziggy. Ziggy.
Ziggy.
Okay.
I can never remember his name at all.
Charity's really into Ziggy comics, so that's why.
We've all been saying the composer's name wrong, by the way. It's Ramin Djawadi. It's almost like ramen. It's Ramin Djawadi.
Okay.
Okay.
The code is the
Oh,
release
yeah.
of the first Fallout game,
Yes,
10
I wrote
10
that down.
97.
10/10/97. I was like, I
Mhm.
wonder if that's meaningful. It is.
Absolutely one. See, listen, that's the
Of course
only
it
one I'm
is.
going to get. There you go.
We're going to New Vegas in the next season.
Fabulous New Vegas.
I'm so excited about that. He lands and there's a Deathclaw skull on the ground. Maybe we'll see a Deathclaw in the next. I would be so
I
excited.
feel like we're never going to get it.
I know, I'm going to be sad.
They've gone extinct or something. They're like, ooh.
Oh, man. I don't know. See, he would have to walk through quite a few Deathclaw nests to even get there to begin with. So, depending, as Francisco was saying, what route he was taking, he might have walked through them. So,
'Cause he has the right
maybe that's why
equipment.
he looks terrible. Yeah, exactly. Because you don't want to go in there without power armor. When Lucy and Cooper and Dogmeat are together heading towards presumably also New Vegas because they're following Hank. It was interesting to me because in all the other Fallout games, you can have one permanent companion, which you can trade out with other people. And in New Vegas, you can have one humanoid and one non-humanoid companion, which is exactly what the group is made of.
Well done.
So depending on who's the main character, because Lucy was the main character, supposedly, of the first season, maybe Cooper is the main character of the second season because we're trying to figure out where his family is.
Well, how about this? If you had to pick a main, this is a good question to ask, being the season finale. Let's go around the room, starting with Rachel. Who do you think is the main protagonist of the series?
I don't think there is just one.
Okay, fair.
I'm with Rachel. I don't think there is just one. That's why we have 3 separate stories and they introduce us to 3 separate people.
Mhm.
But if I had to choose one, surrendered head, I'm going to say it's Lucy.
Okay, Bridget.
Cooper.
Okay, Cooper Howard.
It's tough because we open with Cooper, and like in The Walking Dead, we open with Rick and his story, and he's arguably the main character of that story until he's not. I want to say Lucy only because we set up her main goal in this season and we resolved that goal at the end of the season, where Max and Cooper don't have resolutions fully for their goals. Max sort of. He's upgraded to rank of knight, which is what he wanted to begin with, but is that the end of his story? Probably not. And Cooper, we never really figured out what his goal was until right at that moment. Where is my effing family?
Officially.
You know, yeah. I mean, we kind of
Okay,
figured
yeah.
that's what the goal was, but arguably, why is Lucy going with him if not to facilitate him reaching his goal at that point? To answer the question, I think it's Lucy in season 1, and it might be Cooper in season 2.
Rachel, what did you land on? Anybody, or just like everybody seems to be like, it's like The Walking Dead eventually after Rick leaves? Everybody's like the protagonist.
That was a very beautiful explanation, Karina. I'm gonna have
Thank you.
to.
You gonna go with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I initially did want to say Cooper because we opened the show with him, but as far as storyline, like having a beginning, middle, and wrap up, it was Lucy. Not that her story's over.
The main quest is over.
Yeah.
At least the one that was set up in the beginning. So
Now she's going on a side mission. So
yeah, exactly. She's side questing.
Lucy's goal was to get her father, but the end of the quest ends very unlike what you would think a quest would end like, let's say. And by the end of it, by the way, I write in my notes 2 words at one point, poor Lucy, after watching her stunned for several scenes. And so I do fluctuate actually between not at all Cooper Howard at all. I fluctuate between Max and Lucy because my gut says Max. I want to think that it's Max because Max is birthed into this world. Lucy is a remnant of the old world. So was Cooper, at least in terms of protagonists that we're following and storylines that we're following. He's us as well. And so I want to say him, but I may agree in that it's Lucy because my take, she's the one you're most interested in seeing now that everything is gone. Ties very well. Okay, you can disagree, Bridget, with your face. You're not saying it out loud.
I don't agree.
I'm most interested. I'll tell you why. I'm most interested to see where she goes from here because it seems as though we said this about Cooper Howard. Oh my God, Cooper. Is this what you really want? Or is this something that you just wanted way in advance and this is your excuse to live? Fine. It's like a train wreck you're going to see somewhere down the line. Maximus has a ton of potential. He went from having a purpose that he thought he knew was the purpose. And then just like Lucy, that purpose changed. I am a better person when I'm with you. I don't know where that is anymore now that you're gone, but I'll find you, etc. Blah, blah, blah. Or she'll find him, whatever. Fine. I'm most interested in Lucy because of the end song, or one of the songs at the end. That's the Ink Spots' We Three. That song is meant to be just absolute loneliness. The echo, your shadow, and me. There's a person who's just so used to his or hers loneliness that he's hanging out with memories of a time past, the echoes, which is like your ego, essentially, what you thought it could be like. And she doesn't have any of those. All the memories that she had are false. Her ego, her purpose was false. So she doesn't even have that.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me is super interesting. Kind of like what Sharon D, you had said about her seeing Shady Sands, but on a whole worse level. You said, well, she sees that the top side had a chance, kind of like Rose McClane, as we find out. And well, civilization was starting up again. What point do we have? She snaps out of it and moves on eventually. I'm sure that resonated in her mind. Then when she sees the horror of Shady Sands, it's like, oh God, what happened here? But then you go to where she is now, and that the same people that nuked the world in 2077 were the same people. Hank McClane, her father, helped nuke it again in Shady Sands. She has no identity. That's fun. A blank slate with the values that she picked up that we don't know she's going to reject. She doesn't shoot her father. She can't seem to do it for some reason until the ghoul shoots him in the face and grazes him. Sorry, this is a very long answer to what was supposed to be a simple question. But that's kind of maybe going to what Rachel's point is, that it's a hard choice to make. And my gut says Lucy. I like tabula rasa characters, people that are destroyed from the inside out. And what happens now? What's next?
All right, you said Lucy.
Game-wise, too, typically you start as a vault dweller. So that's why also Lucy. Now, New Vegas, you're not a vault dweller. You're a courier, which, is...
I don't know.
Is my placeholder instead of saying, So...
The lady in Vault 4 was
like
a courier.
Cooper,
Her mom was a courier. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. That's right. So you're a courier in New Vegas, and that's how you start out. Potentially, your main character doesn't always have to be a vault dweller, but most of the time you are. So
will you remain a vault dweller by the end of the games?
Yeah, well, you start off, that's your origin. So in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 76.
Was Rose a example of what happens when they go so feral but they don't die or get killed? I'm trying to figure out, is that what a ghoul looks like when they've been kept alive for 28 years?
Or feral ghoul, you mean, I guess.
I wonder if she got extremely damaged. I assume that she was in Shady Sands when it got nuked, so she's probably irradiated and potentially extremely damaged from the blast and everything else. And she may have gone feral immediately. It's hard to say because, is she tied to the chair?
Yeah,
When I rewatched it, I was like, is she actually tied? That's what I thought. Okay, so she's clearly feral. Otherwise, they would have tied her to the chair. Because they have a regular ghoul in town.
It's the same ghoul that recognizes her from the
one
ghouls.
the one that she released.
Bye,
Yeah.
I'll see you later. That's that guy.
I'll see you later. Yeah.
And he says it's her, by the way, just so you know.
It's her. Yeah, you could definitely tell that he recognized her.
If she had been given the magical Ghoul-Aid, would she have come back, or...
I think they're trying to say that once you are feral, there's no coming back from it. So otherwise, why would Cooper shoot his buddy? Once it's done, it's done.
Yeah, it's a tragedy, too, because Roger at least had some of him left over. And why wouldn't you want to mercy somebody while they're still able to be coherent?
Didn't he say he was been around for 26 years or something like that? So around,
he said 28.
This 28 years. So around the same amount of time that Rose has been.
Shady Sands, right?
Yeah.
28 years ago.
So possibly he got turned in Shady Sands, potentially.
Nice catch.
Maybe.
Okay.
Which is a similar time period.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of a gray area between the games and the show, the way it works. I don't know if she became a ghoul because her body was so messed up and she didn't have a chance to not be feral, or did she turn feral over time? Is that more of a recent thing? Like she's been a ghoul for all these years and recently turned feral, like our buddy turned feral recently?
Well, isn't that the tragedy too? Because you want to hope that she went feral immediately.
Yeah, like she hasn't been suffering for this long as a ghoul.
Yeah, and maybe she's not feeling pain, but what kind of existence is that? To lose the ability to completely form sentences, probably. And listen, speaking as Walking Dead fans, That's the closest you're going to get to a walker in this show. Maybe, perhaps, I don't know. Maybe we'll see another one. But it's the tragedy because, well, Moldaver kept her around so long too. And had she been treading between being non-feral and feral, that is just a horror show. To have to be mercied that far into being feral. And is there something left of her? She couldn't even say her own name. Is there something left of Rose too? That's a big question, maybe. Even if you go feral, is it because you can't control anymore? That's sad.
Looking at the state of her too, like her necklace is like
fused,
grown into her skin. Yeah, like it's fused to her. So clearly she's been like this for a hot minute,
28 years.
Regardless of, I want to believe it's been the entire time. Like immediately as soon as it happened, she was feral, because that's in game, at least it's portrayed as sometimes you're feral right away and sometimes you're not. So it's sort of luck
I hope
or chance.
This touches on something that we didn't quite say out loud, but apparently Lucy was topside with Rosa McClane, because I said it. Now, Rachel, cue your finger guns. There we go. And I was throwing a haymaker. I didn't really think about where that was going to go, but it went to the idea of we remember things differently as children. And then we logically fill in the blanks. Lucy happened to have been on the surface. Maximus may have been saved, quote unquote, by Hank McClane. Again, the very person that nuked Shady Sands, maybe, quote, maybe. Yeah. I love that theory. That's why I'm saying it. I've adopted it as my own, actually. But that's the irony. We remember things differently. What the thing that was supposed to be my hero was the reason why my whole world blew up. Why does Hank ultimately give Moldaver the codes? He really didn't have to. He was very adamant about getting the F out of there.
I actually thought he wasn't going to. Lucy was begging and pleading, and I'm like, he doesn't give a S about her. Yeah. I thought for sure he was going to be like, I'm sorry, but I just can't. But the fact that he did, I was like, okay, maybe he does actually care for his daughter.
It's possible he felt like it was the only thing that he could do to like at least start to bring Lucy back over to his side, because he was going to take her back to the vault. He's like, we're going back to the vault now. And maybe he thought that was the only way that was going to move this forward, because if he keeps stalling by not giving Moldaver what she wants, he's never going to get out of the cage. Lucy's insisting on him giving the code because he has no bargaining position. He's in a cage. Yeah. Like, he's got nothing to bargain with. So.
Do you think he's doing it out of love or out of possession of his child? You're mine.
I think
why would you sacrifice that technology?
I'm reluctant to say that he doesn't love her. I think he does. I think he's just...
That's in the end, I think that's what I saw too.
I think he loves her, but he's still a company man.
I think he is motivated by self-preservation, because he seems very shocked and hurt when she holds the gun to him. Are you really going to do this? Are you going to shoot me? I didn't raise you to be this way. You can kind of see all those things in his face, what you would expect him to say to her in that moment. And ultimately she can't shoot him. So I feel like that shows that she feels deeply betrayed by Hinton, but ultimately she's not going to kill him. She's not that person. Right. And he runs off afterwards because clearly Cooper is willing to harm him or maim him to get the answers that he wants. So he's feeling maybe his only solution is to run away. And I'll say who I think he's running to, but I think that's for next season, potentially.
Alex, I'll allow it. Okay.
I think he's going to find Robert House.
Robco.
So I mentioned him in the last episode, how he owns a Lucky 38 casino, which we see in the end credits. Right. You can see his Securitrons in the outskirts of Vegas. Okay, that's what they're called, not
Assaultrons. Okay.
Securitrons,
they look very similar to the turrets
ones
we saw outside the Enclave, except they can move.
They have like TV faces and giant shoulder pad looking things, and they have like a single wheel, like the Jetsons. You also see an NCR vertibird in the ending credits. It's a vertibird, but it's got NCR logos on it. So it puts into question, because this is all taking place at the end of the Fallout timeline, so after the events of New Vegas. And I'm so excited and curious to see what they're doing in season 2, because that is going to canonize one of the possible endings for New Vegas. Because it's sort of malleable. There's a lot of factors that go into what the ending could be based on your actions. So I'm curious to know what things we're going to see. If he's running to Mr. House and Mr. House is not there, that's going to tell us something. If he's running there and Mr. House is there, that's going to tell us something. So I'm really curious to see what next season is going to hold, and I'm really excited about it too.
Or
Yeah.
They could pull a Breath of the Wild, and all lores are true, essentially.
That's going to be hard to say because they're pretty definitive.
It's a very hard thing
endings.
to explain for the average person. But basically, Breath of the Wild is pulling lore from all the games and melding it into this one game where all timelines are true, essentially.
But I'm saying specifically New Vegas's ending because it has to do with who controls New Vegas at the end of it. And so we're going to see what that result was, regardless of who ended at the end.
That's pretty exciting.
I don't think it was the
wasn't
Legion.
Caesar's
I'm just
Legion.
going to say probably not the
Or
Legion
Kaiser's-
because I didn't see any Kaiser's Legion.
Right.
People were saying online that it looks like, oh, New Vegas is destroyed. I'm like, bro, it's New Vegas. Everything looks destroyed all the time in Fallout.
That's just Fallout.
So
guys.
It's not nice and neat and shiny. It's a mess, just like everything else is.
Well, let's take a break and read the things. I would take the computer terminals because I would love to crack codes in the computers. Are we going to see someone tell someone else to pass by the quarry? This is like a game thing. I know. I've read
gosh,
this.
yeah.
Pass by the quarry to get to New Vegas. Imagine being the actual writing in season 2. JK. Fallout has protagonists and deuterogenists. I think that's a word. I think Ghoul is the main protagonist because he's the oldest character, and then it's Lucy and Maximus who are deuteragonists, like Deuteronomy 2. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. It's good. Okay. I think there's also a possibility of Fallout getting more protagonists in season 2 because you get different paths with different characters in various Fallout games. I think everyone in Fallout can be a protagonist as long as they have a reaching goal and they're just not random NPC characters. Okay. I think that's fair. I think he was thinking he has a parent and didn't want Lucy to suffer more with his lies. Okay, I see. So he was relenting by giving the codes to Moldaver and saying, well, I've fallen this far. I'm not going to fall further. That's a good way of putting it. Okay, I can accept that. I wonder who's going to play the older Mr. House. If there is an older Mr. House to have, did he put his brain in a bottle?
His body was plugged into the supercomputer, so it was all shriveled up looking, and then you communicate with him via a computer screen, which has his face on it, which I'm sure we can find an image of that.
On the internet? Yeah, everywhere, basically.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
The only thing I want to ask is, would Lucy have shot her father had the Ghoul not stepped in?
I don't think so.
The reason why I ask this is because had she done that, the Ghoul / Siggy Wills would have been right. And so far, throughout all the episodes, except for this last one, which looked a little dicey, she has not relinquished her principles in the face of obstacles, not choosing more deadly weapons, not choosing to do things that would have made her father not proud. This is the thing she quotes. It does leave you guessing. It does, again, tabula rasa. Who does she become? Does she maintain her principles? So all of you, by the way, I should say this for the audio podcast because all of you just mostly shook your heads. You said no. So saying out loud, everybody says no. I don't know. I'm not ready to actually say an answer. I think she might have actually shot her father, but then we wouldn't have a good season 2. so that's where I'll leave that. Hollywood sign sponsored by Nuka-Cola. That was kind of cool. I also noticed something really dumb that I don't think we managed to comment on at all throughout this entire series is that the Ghoul is carrying a saddlebag on him that is meant for a horse the entire time. And I didn't notice it until he was very obviously doing it as he exits this hovel and going on this quest with Lucy, essentially. Now that you see it, you can't unsee it. Shake your head. The audio podcast doesn't know that you're saying things.
Yes, I'm agreeing with you.
The family he's looking for is this horse. Like, he doesn't care about
He just wants his horse back.
He wants his horse.
A Ghoul horse.
So,
no, I didn't care about that.
No horses in the vaults, I'm assuming. So
probably not.
That's what he's looking for. He's gonna find it, and it's gonna be like a gulper horse and have like fingers coming out of its mouth or something.
Well, I was hoping it would be just a Ghoul horse because then he'd be a Ghoul rider.
A bag would be a really valuable thing to have in the apocalypse, and it's not like you're making new bags, so you're just gonna take whatever you have, and it's a saddlebag, so it's leather. It's gonna last a long time. It's clearly lasted this whole time, so it just makes sense.
Like if it was. It would probably not be my first choice, only because I feel like having to sling it over your shoulder the way he does is not super secure.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
And it would be kind of annoying, but at the same time, maybe it's perfect because it keeps both of his hands free. It doesn't weigh his back down, like a backpack would. It's not one of those giant bags that the Brotherhood squires are dragging around,
the giant caddy bag.
Yeah. And the guy throwing up in it in the beginning of the episode, I think it was.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
That's not what you should do. Why does this gun smell like vomit? Anyway, the guy falling out of the vertebrate. First of all, by the way, it goes to the lack of maintenance. this thing is shaking so violently. I'm thinking to myself, do these people know how to fix these things? What is going on here? And the guy,
Barely.
and then the missiles coming out of the observatory, people getting all crazy, guy falling out and then hitting the rotor blades.
That was awesome. I did love that.
I felt the spirit of Rachel move inside me.
That was Indiana Jones homage there.
Or Victor Strand, hello.
I always bring up Fear references. I didn't want to do that again.
It is funny to me in that same scene, they did the thing again where they followed the bullet. They used it with the bullet camera with the missile as it zoomed in and hit the vertibird.
That's a good point.
And also, it's a common joke in the games that the vertibirds will show up just to crash because they'll be hovering around the map randomly in Fallout 4, and then like 3 seconds after you see it, it's crashing. Like, so
obviously,
immediately one
now
crashes.
We know why. Yeah, okay, there is one more thing I wanted to add, which was after the conversation that Dane has with Maximus, because what he's advocating for is another path, a safe place to live. And Dane says there is no safe place, there is nowhere to run. So it's not that strange to see Dane raising Maximus's hand, claiming that he was the one, because Dane is a good friend and Dane wants Maximus to have a safe place to live. And what's the safest place to be among the Brotherhood, but in the upper echelon? They scream out, Knight Maximus. I just find that a little touching. He slayed the beast. He slayed Moldaver, our arch nemesis. So where do you think Maximus goes from here?
He'll probably try to do his duty as a knight. No, I don't know if they get orders. I'm assuming they get orders from the clerics to go a certain place, but I think he's going to try to find Lucy. Since she's not going to be, he might go to her vault and try to look for her there and discover that she hasn't returned, and then that might cause a whole stir, and then go looking for her elsewhere. Maybe he gets Norm out of cryo storage. Yeah, and they go off on an adventure together because Norm wanted to go right from the get-go, and now he for sure isn't going to want to stay in the vault.
If you remember, the cleric was like, we can rule this together, me as the head and with weapons like you. So I feel like
the sword.
Maximus is going to manipulate his position to try and help Lucy in whatever way he can, which may end up being helping her track her dad or something like that. He's going to try to manipulate his place, but as it usually does with him, it's going to backfire in some terrible way and make everything worse.
Max is going to, I don't know. I don't care. Norm is going to get a...
I don't care.
Bridget doesn't either, by the way.
I really don't.
Well, because Rachel and I, like, we always do this thing where we're like, I don't really want to make a prediction because it's probably going to be wrong.
Betty's going to come in and find Norm because she's going to look at her computers and be like, who was messing in my computers? And then she's going to go and find Norm in cold storage. And I think she's going to take Norm out and be like, you're going to do what I tell you to now, or I'll kill you.
I hope that Chet gets worried about Norm first, and maybe Chet goes snooping.
Please, Chet, redeem yourself.
He's in 32.
Rachel, that's my answer.
He's in Vault 32. How would he know? Because they can't go to Vault 31.
He knows enough.
I know, but I'm mad at Chet for not being a bro.
He knows that 31's the nexus of this, though. Does that mean he goes out of his
What I'm saying is he won't
zone?
have any way to know that Norm is missing because they're in two different vaults.
I see what you're saying.
Maybe he'll get sick of what's going on, try to go back to 33, realize Norm's not there either, and then find out.
He does have the skills as a gatekeeper.
I'm betting on Chet, all right?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he even looks for Norm. I think he decides on his own because he's just like, well, I've been cordoned off from the friend that I thought I had, and I'm in a situation that I don't want to be in. And so he might just go out on his own.
If I save Norm, I can definitely bang his sister.
Oh, gosh.
By the way, I wanted somebody to make a meme that just says, I love Lucy, and all it is Chet. Just like, I love Lucy logo, and it's Chet just smiling his Chet smile, thinking about Lucy. So that's all I want.
I'm going to make one with a goosey.
I love Goosey. Bridget,
it's like, I don't care.
Norm and Maximus. Where do you think they go?
Whatever.
Bridget says whatever gets her to bed first.
Whatever Rachel said. Rachel's on the right track, except for the Chet thing.
I love Chet. What do you mean?
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm Team Chet.
See, listen, negative reinforcement does work, by the way. Just let you know.
No, here's the thing. When Chet was like, the vault door doesn't work, and he loved Lucy, I was like, oh,
Boop, boop,
it's
boop.
messed up because you're cousins, but it's the cutest thing I've ever seen. I hated it because you're
was
cousins,
so
but it's
cute.
adorable. And Chet, like I said, Chet is a babe. Hubba hubba.
Yay,
I'm not
incest.
kidding.
Oh my gosh.
Also, wait till Chet meets Maximus. The tension.
No,
You know
Chet
what?
is greater than
I feel like
Max.
Lucy would be
Maybe.
totally down for a three-way. Like, I don't feel like she's shy.
Ooh.
Oh
You know
my
what I mean?
gosh.
She's definitely
So
not
the
shy.
show is called We Love Lucy.
That's
Yeah.
why
And
it should be
how?
called Fall Off, not Fall Out.
Or Fall In. I don't know.
Oh,
Fall in my
Ugh.
harem of men, apparently. Yeah, Monty. Anyway, whatever.
my
Ooh,
gosh.
Monty.
All right, so
Oh my
one
gosh.
more thing.
Me? No, I'm good. I'm just going to say what Francisco's been saying.
I
One
don't
more
have
thing.
one more thing, but Francisco does.
Yeah, it's not me, it's
Right.
Francisco. Okay, so he says, I think people saw New Vegas saying it's destroyed, but it looks more like it's abandoned, which I think as well. If the NCR is
Oh.
there, maybe they're trying to attribute the fallout that they experienced to someone, and maybe they thought maybe it was New Vegas. I don't know. Maximus will eat more oysters than normal, start doing side missions. Ah ha 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 ha. Well, I hope he has the chance to do side missions after maybe starving, but we'll see. Sweet home Alabama, Chat. I'm coming home with you. Nicely done. Very good note to end on, by the way. I think that's going to be it. And I'm sad to see this all go away for a little while, but not that long a while. Hopefully after what we should have said at the start of the show, which was the announcement of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon's second season would be September 29th, 2024. So that gives us a little bit of time to cover the mother of all goddamn shows this month with The Boys, House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say also that we will be doing press at Atlantic City Celebrity Convention officially. That's the end
By
of July.
we, he means him.
Me and Thomas, actually. We're going to say that out loud. We also will be doing press for Dragon Con.
Labor Day weekend.
We're working on some other cons that we can't say out loud, Sharondy, yet until it's official. We're doing things. So,
We're
I
in
will also have a
cahoots.
booth at Atlantic City. So.
boom!
Yeah.
See, I'm glad you said something
Yay.
because then you
Yeah.
can buy Karina's art, which you can get.
I was trying to find a way to fit it in there. I was like, what? I'm
That's
going
what she
to
said.
that.
Karina, you've been around long enough. You got to just jump
jump
in.
in.
Well, you know,
Mhm.
Jump in there. That's your
Right.
chance.
That's
Right.
when you jump
Yeah.
in.
perfectly timed.
Yeah.
But that's the
Yeah.
facts, folks. And if you want to meet us out there, I suggest you keep following our social media. And if you really want to keep in touch with what we're up to and what we're doing, well, first of all, do us a favor, head over to ratethispodcast.com/squawking dead. 5 stars and a stim pack is all we need to know that you love us. But tell us what you liked. Tell us what you didn't like. Tell us anything after every single episode. It really, really helps us grow. And we will, in addition to that, post it on social media. So make sure to leave your socials in your review so that we can tag you in that shout out. And if you really like what we're doing and you want to keep more in touch with what we're up to, like the cons we plan to do press for or tables we plan to have with free stickers for you to collect, because I keep inventing new little designs to update that repertoire. I just got a few more today, actually. Head on over to ko-fi.com/squawking dead or patreon.com/squawking dead and just follow. It is free to follow. It's the only place that we post our recording schedules, which are also free to attend, as Francisco has been lovingly doing for the past few.
Yes.
Past
Yes,
several,
thank you,
past almost
Francisco.
all the episodes of Fallout.
I think all of
our
them.
And it will be all the
Yeah.
episodes we plan on recording about the boys, because this guy's a huge boys. I don't know what he's more of a fan of, and he'll tell me, I'm sure. He, like some other folks who we are shouting out at the end of every episode, have joined a membership tier on either Ko-fi or Patreon. For as little as $1 a month, you can get more Discord access than just tipping us on Ko-fi. Free stuff in the Ko-fi shop, our unedited episode recordings, and a whole host of other cool perks. And if you happen to join the Survivors tier, you can join us on these episode breakdowns with your face, head, mouth, ears, Dr. Nose, and weigh in with your visuals on all these episodes.
One more thing.
One more thing.
One
More thing. I've been your host, David Cameo, and you were joined by Cosmon09, Rachel Burt. One more thing. Also, Sharon D, aka Blazy Gardner. Wait, I'm forgetting one more thing. Bridget, aka Punky Brewster. You can reach at ko-fi.com/Bridget Punky Brewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER. I'm not missing anything else. Oh, wait, one more thing. Our special guest for all these episode breakdowns, whom I think we can all give a round of applause to, Karina Davey, who you can reach on Instagram at CARINAE_D. And you can also meet her in person and buy some really cool art in person, tactile paper and all that stuff when you head to Atlantic City Celebrity Convention. Well, I don't think there's anything else to say except for, oh, wait, one more thing. Bye.
Bye.
Okie dokie.
Vindicated. I am selfish. I am wrong.
Okay, no, end it there. Actually.
Swear I'm right.
Okay, now end it there.
Swear I knew it
Okay, now-
all along.
No, end it there. End it there.